Good morning. How are you, everybody? Good to see you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You guys know what? Um, I there's a song in my head, and it's really driving me nuts. I know it's not actually from Family Guy, but Family Guy is the one where I think I remember hearing it the first time. The Good Morning song. So say good morning. Good morning. When the band began to play, the stars were in the sky. Now the milkman's on his way. It's too late to say good night. So say good morning, good morning, good morning to you. That was in my head. It's still in my head. It probably won't get out of my head, but good morning. I'm so glad to see everybody. I hope you guys had a great night last night. We went quite late, and I thought it was a good stream. I still can't move past this guy. Like, bruh, I don't even have words for him. But I do think it was important to listen to his testimony because I do think it gives somewhat of a glimpse into the inner workings um, of the dynamics that existed between Chloe and the rest of her um, chosen family, as it were. And so I thought it was good to listen to, and we're going to finish. Thank you, Jennifer. I knew one of you guys would know. It's from Singing in the Rain. Thank you so much. I'm singing, just singing in the rain. That I know. How I'm not able to remember that that's where it came from, who knows? Who can explain the inner workings of this brain? Not me. Um, but yeah, I thought it was important to listen to, and we're going to finish listening to it. So let me tell you what is on the agenda for today. So they went quite late last night. Even with the delay, um, they didn't end court. The stream didn't end until it was after 6 East Coast time. And I think that there is like a 10 or 20-minute delay. So, yeah, on what's happening in the courtroom. So, yeah, they went late last night. And at the end of, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. At the end of yesterday's testimony, the last witness was the, I guess for lack of a better word, she was the first wife who left. And she did have some very limited contact with Chloe after she left. They didn't know each other. They were not with Benjamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian at the same time. So her testimony was very important, and we're going to go back, and I'm going to cover this trial from the beginning. We're going to, at night, we're just going to do the recaps. So anybody that isn't caught up or doesn't know, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Pointer Lover. I appreciate that, babe. Thank you. It was very generous. Thank you for supporting me in the channel. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I just love Mortal Kombat. I thought about switching the sound for when somebody becomes a member to the Mortal Kombat laugh, but I felt like people might take that as I'm laughing at them for joining memberships. I just like to laugh. Um, so, so I made it something else because I didn't want anybody to think I was laughing at them, because I'm not. I would never laugh at somebody who chooses to be a member of my channel ever. You know, um, hey, MK, good to see you, MK Liam. What are we sharing? Let me. What is MK doing? Hold on a minute. Oh, MK. Oh, our national treasure. Okay. So let me focus. All right. I thought it was incredibly powerful testimony. Now, they did not know each other. They were not with Benjamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian at the same time. She left first, and then, then that's when Chloe got with him. Okay. So at some point, Chloe had reached out to her, and her feeling was, and she did testify to this on cross-examination, that she honestly couldn't be sure if Chloe was reaching out to her genuinely, or if Chloe was reaching out to her because Benjamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian asked her to, and was listening in on the conversation, because when she left, it became tumultuous. They have a child together. He did threaten her repeatedly that he would take her to court and get custody, and she would never see their daughter, and all of the things. So similar threats that we've heard be made to Chloe. So that was important testimony, and we're going to revisit all that. So I'm not going to give you guys too many spoilers, but at the end of the day, what they discussed was whether or not Chloe herself would testify. She decided that she would not testify. That doesn't mean that she can't change her mind. Chloe will have all the way up until the defense rests their case to decide whether or not she will testify. Okay. Also, there was some really good cross-examination of the defense's witness from yesterday, the psychiatrist, and we're going to go over that as well. We're going to go through the trial in order, but that was interesting as well. So what is supposed to happen this morning is the defense is supposed to rest their case this morning, okay? But there is a third doctor that will be testifying. Apparently, in Georgia, because I've not heard of this, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen in other states. I just haven't heard about it. I'm not omnipotent. I can't be all the places. I can't be everywhere all at once. Okay. But apparently in Georgia, when there is a not guilty by reason of insanity defense, they opt to have a third party evaluate the defendant. So this is an unattached, disinterested, objective third party. It is not a witness that was retained by the state. It is not a witness that was retained by the defense. That doctor is supposed to testify this morning. Okay. And I believe what they were talking about last night is that the state will start questioning, and then the defense will cross-examine. All right. Now, the state does intend to put on a brief rebuttal. Okay. And I don't know, because they sort of left it open-ended last night, as to whether or not the defense would put on a SIR rebuttal. Hold on, let me see. Um, Off Little Red says off topic. Anyone have a dog become sick after a rabies shot? Our baby girl Trixie got her rabies shot yesterday. She isn't herself, sleeping and lethargic. Um, I have not heard of that, but here's the deal. Um, I've never had small dogs. I've only ever had labs. And so I don't know, none of my dogs have ever reacted to a rabies shot, but I don't know if that's because they're large breed, and so maybe large breed, they don't react in the same way. It's not as taxing on their systems. So I can't honestly answer you. But what I would do if you're worried about it, low red, always, I would call your vet. That is what I would say. I would call the vet and ask, um, you know, if that is normal. And yes, Low Red says, thank you guys. I know I panic after the loss of my baby Chihuahua. These two are 5-month-old Frenchies. My Cracker Jack had no reaction, but Trixie is having the tired, sleepy. Yeah, I would absolutely call your vet. Just what's the harm? What's the worst that can happen? The vet tells you to come in. Okay. I think you should call. But anyway, back to what we were, but I don't worry. Don't ever apologize for going off topic with stuff like that, you guys, because for real, I care about you, and I also care about your little fur babies. And so if I would say ask. That's what this community is for. Um, all right. So I don't know if the defense will put on a sir rebuttal. Okay. So the other thing that was discussed was, you know what? Hold on a minute. The other thing that was discussed is, I was going to play it for you guys, but this person that clips the trial works really hard, and it's not a super long video, but the part that I want to play, let me just go ahead and do it. It is short, so I think I never want to take away from anybody's work. I know what it is to edit a video, and it is incredibly. It's not hard. It's just it is when you're new at it, but when you're first learning, it's tedious, and what the heck? Oh my gosh! Oh, this is why. Huh. Learn something new. Apparently, when you here we go. Apparently, when you use the Creator Studio, the music studio in YouTube, it logs that in your history. I didn't know that. Sorry, I was that distracted me. I wasn't ready for that. Anyway, I'll drop the link to the part I want to talk to you guys about. Hold on a second. Let me scroll. I think it's like right here. Hold on a minute. All right, hold on a minute. Give me just a second. So they're talking about jury instructions, and these are especially in every case, but particularly in a case like this. Um, Hold on. Let me find it. Okay, here's what I want. All right. So they're discussing jury instructions, and jury instructions are really important. Let me put this link in for you guys. Oh my gosh, hold on a second. For real? Why is it not letting me? There it goes. Sorry. Okay. Let me just start again. So last night they were discussing jury instructions, okay? And jury instructions are very, very important in every case, in every trial, but particularly in a case with like a not guilty by reason of insanity defense, okay? So they're discussing these jury instructions, and this is the part I want you guys to hear. All right. Okay, here we go.
I do not have a final draft of the jury charge, but and y'all correct me if I'm misspeaking, but it looks like there are a good many requests that are sort of in an abundance of caution we'll ask for this. The request about lesser included offenses.
We were actually planning on talking about those tonight, Judge, to see what we can be requested based on the evidence presented. For the record, you had requested our requested charge. We emailed them to you, but apparently we never actually filed them, so we've just filed the ones that we had emailed you officially right now.
Okay.
I do have a few extras that I've been working on that I forgot to bring with me over here this afternoon, so we may have those to file in the morning, but they are all in line with the idea of insanity provision.
Okay, so what they're talking about here, obviously, is these lesser included charges. Okay, but some of the lesser included charges that the defense wants to be considered because of the age of the victim, Hannah. There's a couple of the lesser included in charges that can't apply because an infant cannot commit an overt act that would cause an adult to feel like they needed to give the need to protect themselves from an infant. So let's listen in and see where they go.
Based on some of the arguments we've previously made in the case.
Okay.
You said you're going to file amended? Okay.
Yeah, there's like 4.
Are they pattern charges or are they
No,
other things?
case law based.
Okay. Well, as soon as you can get those to me and to Ms. Roper, I would appreciate that.
I'll try to email them to everybody tonight and then officially have them filed tomorrow morning.
Your Honor, the state's probably based on the testimony that came out today. Dr. Ballard kept using the term coercion in her testimony, so the state's probably going to be requesting a charge that the defense of coercion is not available for the crime of murder in the state of Georgia. Obviously, that's statutory, but.
All right, hang on just one second. Nay, thank you so much for gifting membership. Hold on. If you are a lucky recipient of the gifted memberships from our Nay D, please thank her. Thank you so much, babe. I appreciate that. And speaking of Nay, Nay sent me over the summer like a package. You guys know I did a video opening and talking about her incredible wax melts. Nady has the best wax melts on the planet. Hands down, they're absolutely amazing. They smell, the scent is strong. They're blended well. They are perfection. Also, Nady is a hell of a woman in her own right, a fantastic person. I will drop the link to purchase Nadine's wax melts, and I highly encourage all of you guys to check it out and to purchase from her. The holidays are coming. You need stocking stuffers, or if you have that one person, you know how they always do gift exchanges at work and you don't know them really well. She has gift certificates, all the things. Also, I am using my, when she sent me that package, she sent me a coffee mug. One of those like good thermal insulated, keeps it warm, keeps it hot. Love it. So I'm drinking out of my Music Melts coffee mug that Nay sent me, and I love it. Okay. So thank you, Nay, for doing that, babe. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for supporting me always. Give me just one. Let's get back to this, and I'll drop Nay's chat or Nay's link for the for her wax melts. And remember, if you use my code Queen of Roasting, no spaces, it'll be in the Nightbot link. You get a discount.
I just don't want there to be any confusion about coercive.
Well, what's the state say about voluntary manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter? Or, I think, what's criminal negligence?
I would need to pull up their request charge.
Not criminal, or cruelty to children in the second.
Your Honor, I can provide the court with the case law that specifically says that an infant cannot provide the provocation necessary to justify that charge. That was one of the things that I had discussed with the defense in us communicating about potential plea negotiations. Additionally, I think there's no evidence that this was a negligent act. It is clear that it was a intentional act. Cruelty in the second or murder in the second relates to an act of negligence. There's no evidence of negligence in this case. The sole issue is whether she could form the intent or not. But if she could form the intent, it was clearly intentional and malicious and not a negligent act. The state would object to charging on either of those things. And I'm happy to provide the authority to the court.
Okay. So you hear there that they're trying to get some lesser included charges in the into the jury instructions, and the state is like, no. This is an infant. It's clear from the testimony thus far that her death was not the result of negligence. This isn't a situation where the baby was left in a hot car, which is negligence. Okay. That's not what we have here. And that, so no, we shan't be entertaining those charges. However, I thought it was very interesting that there were talks of plea deals, and Chloe did not accept a plea deal. She wanted to go to trial. And I don't know, because I'll have, maybe it'll come out. If it hasn't already, I'll try to go find it if it has. if they discuss it specifically, what the plea deal was, or the plea deals, because apparently there were multiple talks of what they were going to end up charging her with. Because really, best case scenario here for Chloe would be that she is found not guilty by reason of insanity. All right, but it's not like she's going to go home. Okay, it's just about where she's going to be. Is she going to be in a state-run prison mental institution, or is she going to just regular prison? That's what it is. Now, I do think that I'm not sure how Georgia does it. There are some states where if you are found not guilty by reason of insanity, for example, Texas. Okay. Texas, like with Andrea Yates, Texas required Andrea Yates to serve a specific amount of time before she could ever be even considered for release. Okay. And it's a lot of years. It's not like 1 year. It's not like 5 years. I want to tell you guys, it's like, I think the minimum is 20 or 25. It's a substantial amount of time before they can even be considered. Now, for Andrea Gates's part, after that minimum is time is fulfilled, it becomes semi-regular that she's eligible for release. But every single time she becomes eligible for release, she never petitions to be released. She hasn't yet, I should say. She doesn't want to be released. She says that she is exactly where she belongs. So I did think that it was interesting that the state offered her a plea deal, but she rejected the plea deals. So, now she's rolled the dice with the jury and she's taken her chances. So let's finish listening in and kind of gauge what the plan for today will be. I'll let them tell you.
You don't have to provide any authority. If y'all are, the defense is moving forward with those requests, I need to hear some authority from you on that. I'm going to spend some time with the charge this evening as well, and hopefully as soon as we get through the evidence, the jury may take a little bit longer lunch tomorrow because we'll have to discuss all that before closing. Anything else?
So we don't anticipate closing until after lunch, then, is what I'm hearing?
Well, I don't want to mislead you. I am just kind of guesstimating based on how long the other two experts have been on the stand that Dr. Zom's testimony may take some time. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Can I inquire what order she's being questioned in?
I'm sorry?
Dr. Zom, did the court make a decision about who's to question her first, or whether you're going to give a preliminary instruction?
I thought I already said all this. If I didn't,
Oh dear.
the introduction or the instruction is that sometimes the law requires that an independent witness become involved in the case, or third party evaluate. I don't know the exact verbiage. We talked about it in chambers, and that I thought that was, everybody was in agreement with that.
Yes,
I also thought that it was, again, just for lack of, somebody has to go first. I didn't hear any objection to the state going first. Is there any?
All right. So you hear that the state is going to go first. They're going to question this doctor, and the judge is tired. Like, yesterday was a very, very long day. the doctor was on the stand. Oh gosh, for I think 6 hours yesterday. I mean, not that's a total of 6 hours. They took a lunch in between, and then I mean, she testified for a long time yesterday, which I mean, she should have. This is a not guilty by reason of insanity defense. And, she needed to, it needed to come out. And then she needed to get across on direct examination, they needed to get across that, uh, she, that Chloe could not form the necessary intent under the law because of her mental illness. I don't think, this is just my opinion at this point. This is how I feel about this case. I do think that Chloe does have mental illness. What I don't think is that her mental illness rises to the level of not guilty by reason of insanity. I don't think that she could not or did not appreciate the wrongness of her actions. In fact, I think it shows the opposite. I know that she did have intent. She had intent. It was intended, in my opinion, and I think this bears out in the evidence, that it was intended to be a murder-suicide. What she didn't intend on is surviving. But the intent was clearly there because it's not as if she had a weapon with her. She had to leave that room, walk downstairs into the kitchen, take out a knife from the butcher block, go back upstairs, and she shut the door behind her and she locked the door behind her, which that's intent. And that, even though, if you think about it, like time-wise, it doesn't, I mean, it's not like, this was, Windsor Palace or something, and, where the guest quarters are and the kitchen is located is like a half a mile away. It's, an average size house, right? So it's not like it takes an extreme amount of time to go, leave the room, go down the stairs, go into the kitchen, get the knife, turn around, go back upstairs and go into the bedroom. It's a fairly short duration of time. But nonetheless, it's enough. That's the thing about premeditation. Premeditation can be any amount of time. And the fact is that it becomes premeditated when she made the choice to go down the stairs and into the kitchen to take out a knife. As soon as she touched that knife and took it back upstairs, then it became premeditated, because a knife is considered a weapon, and it's a traditional weapon, unlike Sarah Boone, right? With the suitcase. People don't normally think of a suitcase as a weapon. The way that Sarah used it was 100% a weapon, but it's not something that one traditionally regards as a weapon, the way that, a knife or a firearm or something, a bat, whatever. Excuse me. So, excuse me, hold on a second. I have to cough. All right. So, that is when it became premeditated. And this, for me, the appreciating the wrongfulness of her actions, in my opinion, the evidence that leads me to believe that she could appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions is when she locked the door. She locked the door to stop, or to prevent, I should say, to prevent anyone from entering that room and stopping her, either stopping her from stabbing Hannah or stop her from stabbing herself. That's where, it's my opinion, that one act, that singular act of locking the door, is what takes
Outstanding.
insanity in this situation. So that's just how I feel about this. It's sad. I'm not saying that it's not an extremely tragic set of circumstances, that I'm not negating the fact that I feel that Ben Yamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian didn't groom her. I'm not negating, I do believe he groomed her. I do believe that he was abusive to her. In every way that a person can be abusive. I think he was physically, and I think he was mentally abusive to her. I'm not negating any of that. But at the same time, none of that all of those things can be true, and yet I can still say that I don't believe that what she did rises to the level of not guilty by reason of insanity. I think the difference in my mind between Chloe and Andrea is that once Andrea had completed the act, she then she did wait for her husband to leave. That is true. But I also think that the things that she did after the fact are what she made no attempt to hide. She sat out front. She told the police where to go to find the children, all of those things. And I think that I also think that there is a much clearer record going back years and years with Andrea of, it started as severe postpartum depression. And then there's also evidence of postpartum psychosis. And there's something that rings a little hollow with some of the things that Chloe is reporting. And again, it's part of the issue I have is the way that doctor testified. It was very unclear to me, and maybe it will become clearer when we go back and listen to her testimony again, when we get to that part in the recaps. But to me, it was not clear whether or not the things that she was relating that Chloe told her, if she was relating them the way that Chloe said it to her, or if she was saying the things, the things that Chloe told her are examples of delusion. Do you understand? Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm feeling. I don't know if I'm explaining it or being clear, but that is it's unclear to me if exactly what the way that Chloe reported to her. That's what's unclear, and to me that makes a difference because when we watched Letitia's trial, the state witness was very clear in her testimony about what Letitia said. Okay, so Letitia's self-reporting. Okay, and then after she said what Letitia reported, then she said, and this was my interpretation, my diagnosis, what have you, of what she said. This is why I determined, because she said A, B, and C, I determined that she was malingering, that she was feigning. And so I think that is, it's very, maybe if I listen to it again, I'll have a better understanding of the actual reporting. But at this moment, I don't. And so I don't, this is a complicated and sad case, like at the end of the day, regardless of how the jury finds, this is a sick young lady and she definitely needs help and probably to some extent um, a little bit of deprogramming. And there's a 13-month-old who was murdered in a very violent way at the hands of someone she loved and trusted. And once again, as with all children's, as it happens every time a child is murdered, the family, their loved ones are robbed from, getting to see them grow up and watch all of the things that happen with children when they grow up and experiencing their first, driving a car, getting a driver's license, graduating, their first dance, all of those things. But they also rob the world of that child's potential. Children have unlimited potential. You never know what a child is going to do or to bring to the world when they grow up. And now, we don't have that. And yes, Lisa, this right here, Lisa says, I think the doctor was not good at testifying and the attorney was terrible asking her questions. If you were a juror, you'd never know because it wasn't specified. Exactly. And see, when that happens, that's what's going to make, it's going to be incredibly important that the jury instructions are clear, because what they're wrestling with, the jury, is not necessarily guilt or innocence. It's not really innocence, guilt or not guilty, right? They're not wrestling with that. There's no argument about who committed the crime. It's about what her mental state was at the time she committed the crime. And because of the way that doctor testified and the way that she was asked the questions, it makes it very difficult to ascertain whether or not Chloe was malingering. It was very unclear, muddy testimony that I was not, a huge fan of, frankly. But I am very interested in the testimony that is going to happen today, because Oh my gosh. I started to type in court TV and I made a little typo. And y'all know what came up? Caillou. That was the prompt. Bruh. No, 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 no. Let me see. Let's see if there's an upcoming. Let's see. Huh. Why is there not an upcoming stream? Hold on, let me see. All right. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, I've never looked at Caillou. YouTube, I don't know what you're doing. I see you have games, but I'm gonna need you to stop. Let me see if I go over here. But anyway, well, I guess we could do it from Law and Crime. Let's see. You know what I've noticed, and I don't know if Court TV and Court TV has one channel, but Law and Crime has multiple channels that they cover trials on. And I haven't looked at their main channel because I've been watching this trial. And this trial they're covering on Law and Crime trials. But what I've noticed between Law and Crime trials and Court TV is that they are disabling the chat. Hang on, Emily. I'm going to type it in the chat. You got it. It's just like this. Queen of roasting, no spaces. Just like that. I just think that's interesting that they aren't that they're disabling chat. But what I'm really interested in watching today is the examination of this third doctor who is a disinterested third party. Maria, so what we're watching, this case is out of Georgia. It took place in 2020. Chloe Driver stabbed her 13-month-old daughter, Hannah, 4 times, one of them so intensely and deeply that it severed her carotid artery. She has, and this happened December 8th of 2020. Chloe Driver, who was 20 at the time, is claiming not guilty by reason of insanity. She says that because she lived in a polygamous cult-like marriage that existed between her and a much older man. She was the first wife, and there were 2 other wives. She also apparently has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. She has borderline personality disorder. She's claiming not guilty by reason of insanity, and that is the trial that we are watching today. So, hey, MJ, good to see you, babe. But yeah, I feel like, okay, this is not a state witness, nor is it a defense witness. I think this is actually a little bit kind of amazing. And I'm actually starting to think now that this is a good idea moving forward, like in future trials where, like, can you imagine? All right, let's take Sarah Boone. Let's take Sarah Boone and lock her up for the rest of her life. But no. Okay. For example, let's take Sarah Boone's case and her defense. So her defense was the battered spouse syndrome defense. Okay. Can you imagine what it would have been like for the defense's expert witness, Dr. starts with an H. why can't I think of it right now? For the state's psychiatrist just to testify, right? And then, the defense's expert witness to testify, and then for the state's witness to testify, Dr. Werner, right? And then to have a third doctor not retained by either side, not deposed by either side. I don't know if there's a deposition, let me not say that, but to come in and testify about the defendant. Like, I'm curious if that would have happened if there was a third party evaluation not retained by either side, what they would have come up, what they would say about Sarah Boone. My suspicion is that their conclusion would have been in line with the state. That while Sarah Boone may have battered spouse syndrome, that what occurred on February 23rd was not the result of a PTSD event, okay? Because of the laughing and stuff that went on, the joking or whatever. Now, I have suspected ever since we saw those videos that Sarah took on her phone, not the suitcase videos, the other videos where she's just berating George, that the only person who was laughing and joking around when the suitcase was zipped was Sarah. I don't think George ever thought it was a joke. I don't think George ever thought it was funny. I actually think that it's quite possible that George was scared the entire time. And I also think that George did get, I don't know, I guess I think that George got into the suitcase under duress. I think that Sarah badgered him and I think told him to get into the suitcase, and I think he did it. So yeah. And her sentencing is fast approaching. And so I'm working on videos that break down her trial, the highlights, obviously how I want to do it. And you guys tell me if this is something that you would be interested in. I would like to do the videos similar to the way that I do like the streams, right? Like factual and serious, but also when there is humorous parts, I want to talk about those parts, because there were things that happened during the trial that were humorous. When Owens threw that temper tantrum and started pointing and all of the things, I mean, that was humorous. When Mr. J in his closing rebuttal, when he likened Sarah to Darth Vader and the throat hug that Darth Vader does, I find your lack of faith disturbing, all of those things. Yeah, that was funny. There were moments of humor and levity in that trial. The subject matter wasn't. At the end of the day, a man lost his life. But yeah, see, that's what I think. I think that there was something similar to the things we witnessed in those videos of her berating him. Like when that first video that they showed, where she woke him up, started filming him, started berating him, and then ordered him down the stairs. I think it was something to that. I think something like that is what occurred. And oh, yay, Tony, I'm so glad. Tony says, oh, I'm down for exactly that, Jen. That's why I've been here since day one. And I appreciate that, babe. Thank you so much for being here since day one. And yes, Tony is a day oneer, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you guys. But I do think that that's the circumstances under which George Torres was put in that suitcase. I don't think that he was unconscious and then put in the suitcase. I think that he was ordered into that suitcase, and I think she berated him. That's what I think. And I am waiting with bated breath to hear the mitigating circumstances that Mr. Owens comes up with. Because if they're anything like that rambling, nonsensical, oh, that reminds me. Hold on a minute while I'm thinking about it. Let me do this really quickly. Let me upload this video. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it, if I remember where it is. Oh my goodness. I need to clean my downloads up. I'm out of control. Here we go. This is it, I think. Oh, it's too big. Hold on a minute. What? Might be the wrong one. Hold on. Let me see. But if it's anything like that rambling, nonsensical closing argument where literally no I's were dotted, no T's were crossed, no dots were connected, it was too much. Hold on a minute. I just had it. Hold on. Bruh. This is a problem. I definitely 111 billion% need to clean this up because it's out of control. And now I can't find the things that I'm trying to find. So this is just fantastic. I'll find it. Let me see what this is. No, I don't think it's that. Oh boy. Let's see if the court is. Actually, you know what I can do? I'll just go back over here to this. And just export it again. There we go. That'll work. I've forgotten to upload all my little clips and stuff that I have. I got so distracted with the fact that I can be fancy and have reactions and have all of the things that I forgot about this.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
I forgot about that. I forgot about all those little things that I have that I need to put, that I need to bring back. What is happening, long crime trials? Come on. All right, let's see. Let's see. I'm curious though, what's happening here with Court TV? They don't even have an upcoming stream. What's happening? That's all right. We'll stay with Law and Crime. They just haven't gone live yet. We're still waiting for them. But yeah, I've forgotten about all my little things that I have. You know, I need to upload the it was a good day. I need to upload Cat Williams as the pimp, all the things. Yeah. Anyway, this is and now I'm wondering how we should play it today, because I have stuff like I have every day. I have stuff I have to do, and I have to balance streaming and coverage with other tasks that I have to accomplish. And now I need to figure out, like, what should we do for the day? Like, should I come back after lunch and listen to the closing arguments, or oh, I can do that, Lisa. I can do that. Or should I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out. I'm going to play it by ear, I'm going to see how this morning goes. And then, yeah, I'm telling you guys, you will absolutely 111 billion% not be disappointed with your order from Music Melts that Nadine makes. Nay, and if you aren't sure about what scents to get, let me tell you this, because I wasn't sure. So I messaged Nay, and she asked me, okay, tell me the scents you do like and tell me the types of scents that you don't like. And she was able to put together a combination, and I loved every single scent that she sent me. Every single one. Not disappointed at all. Yes, Carolina, this. I'm back. Or when Sarah Boone videotaped herself walking upstairs, woke him up and said, "Where's my keys?" and whacked him over the head face. She's icy cold, cruel. Thank God Brian and her son don't have to be around her. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Like, when she walked in that room drunker than Cooter Brown on some Peter Griffin, "Where's my flapjacks" level baloney, that was too much. Too much. Too much. And ridiculous and cruel. She's mean. She's a cruel woman. And I do think in her warped mind that she absolutely believed then and believes now that that the videos that she took of the situation in the suitcase, the suitcase videos, not the situation in the suitcase videos, I absolutely believe that she really thought that what she was showing there was George in a bad light. I really do think that she thought those videos were evidence that was helpful to her. And when you think about it, and when I think about it, okay, let's go all the way back. Let's go back to her interrogation, okay? So she's sitting in the interrogation, and she references videos that are on her phone that are not the suitcase videos. Y'all, she is talking about those videos of her berating him. Those are the videos that she's talking about in the interrogation room. She thinks those show a pattern of abuse perpetrated by George Torres on her. That's what she thinks. That's why she recorded that stuff. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hold on a minute. Here, Gretchen says, during one of the family court letters, she was like, let me do my Sarah Boone. I can parent my child from jail, space, Australia? Delusional. No, first of all, Sarah, now, normally I don't like to disparage people's parenting. Okay. If we're not talking about, if their parenting isn't part of the case, I don't usually like to talk about it. Okay. But Boone, I'm going to need you to take several seats and shush, ma'am. The fact that your ex-husband, I'm not even going to refer to him that way, your co-parent, Brian, had to call you repeatedly Monday morning to verify whether or not you were going to pick your son up from school that day says it all. In the history of me being a mom, never at any time have I had to be called like that or at all to find out if I'm going to pick up the children from school. It has always been my job to pick up the children from school. That's why I got nothing for you, Boone. Nothing. Nada. Because of that level of redonk that you exhibit on a daily basis. So annoying. I mean, listen here, Linda. I can parent my child. You can't even parent your child from Orange County, Florida, Winter Park, Florida, when you resided 5 minutes from him. Calling Brian at all hours of the night, talking about, I need my keys. Can you bring me my spare key? Girl. And then, after all that, right, had the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to haul her cookies up on that stand and talk smack about Brian, saying that he needed to understand that she was busy doing other things. Yeah, busy being into the cups. That he had a habit of bringing their son over during situations that were occurring between she and George that a child shouldn't be around. Does that even sound true, Sarah? Like, you have 11 billion thoughts racing around in that brain of yours. And these are the ones that escape your mouth. That is what baffles me. Like, when you hear, Sarah seems to me to be one of these people that practices what she's fixing to say. Like, it's not spontaneous. Okay. And you know that she sat in her bunk the night before her testifying and thought long and hard about what she was going to say, what was important for her to get across to the jury. her story that she talked about once she was able to get on the stand, when she wrote those letters to the judges, when she got up on the stand, everybody, the world, was going to see how wrong they were about Sarah Catherine Boone. $10,10,77. Okay. So, she got up there, she sat in her bunk and thought about it. And those are the words that she chose to use. That's how she decided to tell her story. That's how you know that she is 111 billion% delusional. Because she thinks that what she said on that stand is helpful. And I'm given to understand that Sarah Boone intends to make a statement at her sentencing. Can you even imagine what that's going to look and sound like? I picture it being something similar to Lori Vallow saying that JJ and Tylee visit her and her good friend Tammy come and visit her, and JJ and Tylee are happy and that Tylee apologized to her, that that JJ is happy and has a job, and that this was all some sort of, accident. That is what I envision. It's going to be that level of ridiculous. Oh my God. Growing up is lots of tough, especially when I've had enough. Something on Caillou. Oh my God. I can't even believe I remember that song, even in part. Like, I've tried to block the whole Caillou experience out of my brain, but that little remnant is still stuck. Yes. Yes. Jennifer says, how about when she got on the stand and was asked her full name and to spell it, and she said Sarah Boone 10,10,7,7. Yes. 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 Let's see. Lisa says, Boone reminds me of Letitia in the fact that people just went with her BS all of her life to keep peace. She believed the rest of the world would too. Yeah. Like, Tisha and Sarah are very similar in that regard, where it's just not worth the confrontation, and it's not worth it. It's a bit like teaching a pig to dance. It's a futile effort and the pig gets pissed, or playing, chess with a pigeon. They just they shit all over the board and still think they've won, like that. Oh my God. Sex when I've had enough. I'm Caillou. You know the other kids show that freaks me out? Max and Ruby. Okay. Where are the parents in that situation? Like, the grandma pops in every once in a while, right? But it's very limited. But for the most part, Max and Ruby seem to be living in that home alone and unsupervised. Ruby is over here doing, like, raising Max, doing the laundry, making the dinners, cooking all the meals, entertaining Max, and every once in a while, Mima Bunny pops in to check in. Or maybe she might take Max for an outing so that Ruby can catch up on her chores. I don't know. The whole premise of that show disturbs me. I don't like it at all. It's just Nadine, that's a good point too. The way that Peppa Pig is animated, the drawing, it's yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those. I mean, while we're on it, we could talk about SpongeBob. That show is definitely got adult themes, which I laugh at. You know, the tartar sauce. I'm going to leave it there. Um, that's this is another good point. Where are Dora's parents? They just let her leave all hours and run off with the monkey. Absolutely. Dora is supervised by a monkey and a backpack. That's it. That's all. She's running off all over Hell's Half Acre on all kinds of adventures. Dora, Dora, doing all the things. Oh, hold on a minute. Got to get over to what we're here for. Maybe I should do like a stream on the other channel, and we can just talk about what's wrong and how freaked out these today's kids shows make us. Maybe we should do that. All right, let me just rewind it like a couple seconds. Oh, okay. I guess Chloe is going to go for, she's removed the braid that was holding her hair back. Interesting. Here we go.
Ms. Trethewey, you may call your next witness, please.
Judge, at this time, the defense will rest.
All right. Thank you. Members of the jury, the state and the defense have closed their cases in chief. Georgia law provides that when a defendant has raised a defense of not guilty by reason of insanity, the law provides that a third party make an evaluation of the defendant. By third party, I mean I say psychologist that is not associated with either the state or the defense. The third party evaluator in this case is Dr. Jacqueline Zom. You may have heard her mentioned in the testimony earlier. She is here this morning. Both the state and the defense have stipulated to her qualifications as an expert, and she is going to be testifying for you. Each side will have the opportunity to ask her questions. So, Dr. Zom, you can come forward. Yes. If you will place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matter pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, ma'am. If you will state your name for the record, please.
My name is Dr. Jacqueline Zom.
All right, and Ms. Gropper, I'll let you proceed.
Good morning.
We've stipulated to your qualification as an expert, but because the jury's had the benefit of hearing from other experts and their background, could you tell the jury a little bit about your education and experience to forensic psychology?
Yes, can I just ask, is this too loud? Am I
No.
vibrating anyone's eardrums?
I think it's okay.
Okay,
I can turn it down a little bit if you're uncomfortable.
thank you. My undergraduate degree is from Georgia College and State University. I have a Bachelor of Science with a major in psychology. My graduate training is from Georgia School of Professional Psychology at Argosy, Atlanta. Throughout my graduate training, we're first required to become generalists as psychologists. So we all have very similar training in terms of our graduate school training. However, During all of my practicum and in-person kind of hands-on learning opportunities, I focused on evaluation and assessment. So that has been where my training has primarily focused. My residency was at Mississippi State Hospital, which is right outside of Jackson, Mississippi. In Mississippi, it's similar to Georgia Regional. It's the state psychiatric hospital where individuals are treated for severe and pervasive mental illness, including individuals who have been forensically committed or who have been found in need of treatment to be restored to competency, or are being housed after being found not guilty by reason of insanity. So my residency included forensic rotation on a forensic ward where I provided group and individual counseling for competency restoration, as well as involvement in evaluations to determine both competency to stand trial and criminal responsibility. During that time, I also completed an external private rotation that focused on the similar referral questions. Since that time, I came back to Georgia, completed my postdoctoral training at Georgia Psychological, which is where I was employed when I initially conducted this evaluation. Throughout my time there, I served as clinical director over a small clinic of approximately 5 assessors, evaluators. Most of my work there involved juvenile court as well as some family court and some cases similar to this one. All of my experience since completing my graduate training has involved evaluation and assessment, so that is kind of where my expertise lies.
Okay, and when you use the terminology evaluation and assessment, what do you mean by that?
Psychological evaluation, psychosexual risk offender evaluations, domestic violence, substance abuse, questions regarding parental fitness or risk for child abuse, as well as criminal responsibility. Also, the question that is before this court, whether someone is criminal, those do come to us far less frequently because they are not presented to the court in as higher numbers as we see these other referral questions.
Okay, so the criminal responsibility assessments you do come in smaller numbers than the other types of assessments?
Far smaller numbers, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I want to talk to you a little bit about your evaluation in this case. The court's kind of told the jury that the law provides that a neutral third-party doctor will conduct an evaluation. So we've never worked together before. Is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. And you completed a 38-page report in this case, right?
That is correct.
And tell the jury a little bit about what you reviewed in this case in terms of collateral documentation apart from your actual evaluation of Ms. Driver.
Okay. For this case, I received extensive collateral documentation. I received, I believe it was approximately 1,200 pages of documentation pertaining to medical treatment. I received what I believe were all of the interviews of the parties who were present at the time that the alleged event occurred, including the interviews with Mr. Benyamin Ben Mikhail, the 2 ladies who were present in the home, Jessica and Sarah. I received interviews of Ms. Driver herself that were conducted by Detective Cruz, and I received the police narratives of all of those interviews as well as the actual interview itself. I also received some documentation of a handful of calls that were placed from the jail. I did not receive previously completed evaluations.
Okay. And your statement about not receiving previously completed evaluations at the time that you were conducting your evaluation, what was the reason for that?
So I'm not sure if they would have been provided to me or not, but I did request in this case that they not be provided to me, given that my role was to be a neutral evaluator. So I did not want to see the work of a previous evaluator and their conclusions.
Okay. And so did you conduct your evaluation and review of the material and complete this 38-page report having no idea what the other doctors in the case had found?
So I was told that at the onset of the case, I was told that Ms. Driver had been evaluated twice, and that both evaluators agreed that she was suffering from severe mental illness, had a significant mental health history, but that they had differing opinions in some areas.
Okay. But beyond that, you had not reviewed their reports and
No.
specifically requested that you not receive them so you could conduct your independent analysis?
That is correct.
All right. And did you also, as part of your review of this case, receive information about things like her cell phone searches?
I did.
Okay. And any other potential video documentation?
I received a video that was taken, I believe, by Ms. Driver or by someone with Ms. Driver that occurred during what appeared to be a point where her daughter had been taken from her and she was not with her daughter and was attempting to go to a place to meet the father in order to be with her daughter.
Okay. I want to talk to you about your evaluation, your actual evaluation of Ms. Driver and your interaction with her.
Actually, can I add one more additional
Yeah, of course.
that I did not mention? I apologize. I also received what I believe was a transcript, I'm sorry, not a transcript, but an audio recording of her conversation that appeared to have been taped by Mr. Benjamin McHale, where he had recorded various statements she had made in the time leading up to the alleged events.
Okay. And after you review, any idea how much time you spent reviewing all of that collateral documentation?
I would say between 10 and 16 hours.
Okay. And after did you review all that before you went to meet with Ms. Driver?
I did not review all of it before I went to meet with her. I believe that I had received it and had reviewed some, but I had not reviewed all of it before I met with her. Much of it was also reviewed multiple times.
Okay. And you, on page 19 of your report, you discussed sort of your behavioral observations and mental status of Ms. Driver when you actually went to go see her at the Cherokee County Adult Detention Center?
Yes.
All right. And is it fair to say that you notated in your report that you found Ms. Driver to be of above average intelligence?
I believe her to be of above average intelligence, yes.
And why did you reach that conclusion?
Well, she, reported to have done well in school and excelled academically before she dropped out, but also her communication is very sophisticated. Her language, her use of words, her vocabulary and use of vocabulary in conversation is, I believe, to be above average, as well as she's very articulate and detailed in describing things.
All right, y'all. We have another one who excelled academically and is above average intelligence. That is all.
In a manner that would be consistent with at least average, more than likely above average intelligence.
Okay. You also indicated in your report that she was very much aware of the legal details surrounding her case. What did you mean by that?
She was very much aware that I would be conducting a third evaluation. She was very much aware that she had been evaluated previously on 2 different occasions. She was very much aware that my report would not be confidential, that it would be provided to the court, to the attorneys. She was very much aware of how to reach her attorney should she need to do so. She was also aware in a manner that was quite unique for someone in her situation, in that she spontaneously articulated that 3 years had passed since the offense occurred, alleged offense, and she recalled in much greater detail in terms of her own symptoms and what was going through her mind at the time in far greater detail in the previous evaluations that occurred sooner after the alleged event. So she herself had some concerns regarding, I guess the appropriate word would be the validity of this evaluation, given that so much time had passed.
Okay. And did you notate in your report sort of your lack of concerns with regard to her memory and her ability to recount certain things?
I perceived her to be able to recall things in great detail. I perceived her memory to be, she was able to articulate very things well and seemed to have a very vivid memory for the circumstances leading up to the alleged offense.
I have to say, I also appreciate the way that this doctor is testifying, because it's very clear and easy to discern what Chloe is reporting and the assessment of what she's reporting versus by the doctor versus yesterday's testimony, where it was unclear if it was Chloe using these terms and this was Chloe's recall and narration of what had occurred leading up to, in the in the past, the dynamics that existed in the relationship between she and Z, and then subsequently the rest of, the other two sister wives. And then, when she had the baby and all of those things, this is much easier to discern who's saying what. And I appreciate this much more than I appreciated the defense's expert witness testimony. I'm not taking away from her conclusions or her knowledge and education and experience. It's just the way that she testified made it very unclear exactly who was saying what.
All right. And I want to talk to you a little bit about your report as it relates to sort of getting background information.
Yes.
On the driver before you kind of got into the substance of the offense.
Hang on, let me highlight this, because I've been trying to put my finger on who it is that Chloe reminds me of, and this is it. Nasa, she reminds me of that Ezra chick you covered, Jen. Yes, she does. She's very reminiscent of Ezra McCandless. I agree. Yep. And
her mental state surrounding.
Hi, Candace.
What did she describe to you about her childhood?
She described basically that she had grown up. She didn't use the word loving. It seemed as though her home may have not been particularly, there may not have been a lot of overtly expressed affection, but she seemed to perceive that she was well cared for, did not describe abuse by her parents, and perceived that her needs and most of her wants were provided.
Okay. She described herself as being boy crazy?
Yes.
Okay. She told you about moving in with boyfriends when she was 15 years old and then with a second boyfriend in 2017?
Yes, she described herself as being a difficult child to parent.
Okay. And she reported to you a lot of history of drug use with cocaine, ecstasy, MDMA?
She did report an extensive drug use starting at a very early age.
Okay. And she indicated that she had gotten some of those drugs from her boyfriends, but also gotten some of those drugs from her brothers?
I believe primarily her boyfriend. Her brothers maybe on a couple of occasions was my perception.
Okay. And she reported to you also that she was sexually abused by both of her brothers?
She didn't use those terms explicitly. It seemed that something had occurred. It didn't seem that she perceived it to be of malicious intent.
Okay. She told you that her brothers didn't know what they were doing when they hurt her? Okay. Specifically with regard to her relationship history with the two boyfriends she lived with prior to meeting Benjamin, isn't it true that she told you that she was becoming increasingly spiritual while she was dating them and feeling guilty about the life decisions she was making?
She did.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about, obviously she told you she met Benjamin and she started a relationship with him when she was 17. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. What did she tell you about sort of the relationship dynamics or the cult dynamics involving Jessica and Sarah and their feelings toward one another?
I believe her language, and I'd have to look back at my writing to be 100% accurate, but I believe the language that she used was that they came on soon after her, and initially she was okay with it. It seemed that contention primarily surfaced after the birth of her daughter when she wanted to live as a family.
Okay. And just with regard to language, is it fair to say that on page 26 of your report, she told you that by the time the baby was 7 or 8 months old, she hated the other wives because they wanted to have a child with Z, and they hated her because she had a child with him first?
Correct.
Okay. And Isn't it true that she expressed to you multiple times that you document in your report her desire for stability and her desire to be able to give Hannah a normal life?
Correct.
And one of the things that you documented in your report is that he had kept promising her that he would give her a house and a community to raise her baby in.
Yes.
Okay. And did that seem to be of significant importance to her surrounding the dynamics of that relationship?
It did.
She's the youngest, Jennifer.
Isn't it true that in your evaluation of her,
Hey,
she had an
Sophie.
extensive amount of knowledge surrounding sort of the, I don't know what to call it other than fraudulent conduct of the cult?
Can you repeat that?
She had an extensive knowledge of the conduct of this organization, how they got money, how they got cars, how they planned to get houses.
She did.
Okay.
She did, and it was very complex, such that it was confusing to me.
Okay. Did she try to explain it to you?
She did.
Okay. And in fact, she told you that they had all applied for COVID loans under each of their trusts, but she was the only one that got approved.
She did say loans. It may have been COVID. I would have to look back at my exact language, but I do recall the mention of loans that seemed to be very large sums of money that they had all applied for, and she was the only one who was approved, yes.
Okay. And she indicated that they had RVs and vehicles that they had no license and they had no insurance, but they would always get out of it when they got pulled over because they had the trust documentation.
Correct.
And she also told you that their plan of going from North Carolina down to Florida was because they planned to steal 2 houses with their trust that they located on Zillow.
Correct.
And she also indicated to you that they had previously gotten free vehicles utilizing this trust.
Correct.
And did she seem to have an extensive knowledge of sort of the inner workings of that?
She did.
I want to talk to you next about maybe some of the things that she represented to you that were not supported by the collateral documentation.
All right, we're going to stop right there because we need to unpack this, what appears to be allegations of, I don't even know another way to describe this, but some kind of criminal enterprise out here using documents that and the ability to get vehicles and all the things because they were some religious loophole in the tax laws and whatnot, like, bruh. Okay. This puts a little bit of a different spin on things, I have to say. Yikes on bikes. All right. So let's find out now what basically these are nice ways of saying lies. So we'll rewind a little just a bit because she says, hold on.
I want to talk to you next about maybe some of the things that she represented to you that were not supported by the collateral documentation.
That is a tactful way of saying lies.
I noted that one of the things in your report was that she told you when she was admitted into the hospital that she weighed 80 pounds. Is that fair?
I can't recall if she said when she was admitted to the hospital or during the culmination of her struggles that led up to the alleged events, but she did note losing significant weight and weighing approximately 80 pounds.
Okay. And if your report said that she said when she was admitted to the hospital she was 80 pounds, would you have any reason to disagree?
I would not disagree with that.
Okay. And you actually notated in your report that you had the medical records, and her medical records indicated that she had normal BMI, right?
Correct.
And in the medical records, it also indicates that she wasn't 80 pounds, she was 113 pounds upon admission.
Yes, it had the kilograms, and I did have to do the conversion online. But yes, that is what I noted from her medical record.
Okay, so we have another one, Tisha Lynn, looking at you, who reports that they are significantly underweight. Remember, Letitia on many, many phone calls said how she was not eating. She'd gone days and days and days and days and days without eating. She'd lost all this weight. And then she turns up to court. And what does Aunt B say? Aunt B says, You look humongous, Tisha Lynn. Okay, baby, I love you. Bye. Mm-hmm. It's another one.
Okay, so she had underreported to you that she was 33
Hey,
pounds
Wolfie.
skinnier than what she actually was.
It's certain. It seems so based on the documentation that I had in the medical records as compared to her self-report.
Okay, that she was exaggerating how thin and frail she was?
That she was exaggerating or either had misperceived or either was representing a different point in time.
Okay.
Doctor, she exaggerated and lied, but I appreciate
I want to talk
your
to you
tactful
about
explanation.
Your review of her searches. I think you documented several of them in your 38-page report.
I did. Some were repeated and some were similar, so I don't think that I documented all of them, but I did document many of them, yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me that on November the 22nd and November the 23rd, she started searching things about whether she was sinning being with a married man, whether she was sinning having a baby with a married man.
Yes.
Okay. Was this consistent with her statements to you that she was starting to question sort of the ideological views of the cult?
Yes.
Okay. And those things were not related to any delusion she was having. She just indicated that they were related to her questioning the value system of the cult.
That was my perception, that she was questioning the beliefs that were being taught within the group.
Okay. And that was on November the 22nd, November the 23rd?
I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm not looking at the date, but that seems correct.
Sorry, do you have your report there?
I do.
It's on page 12. If
Thank
that's
you.
helpful.
If you
You're
can
welcome.
reference the page.
Yeah, of course. So you're aware that on the 25th of November, 2 and 3 days after she was searching about whether she was sinning being in this group, she searched killing someone to save them.
Correct.
All right. And then you're aware that subsequently, 5 days after that, she was researching how to snap a neck and looking at websites about how hard it was to kill someone by breaking their neck.
Correct.
Okay. And then you're also aware that on the day that she killed Hannah, December the 8th, she was Googling how to get a bus ticket for a 13-month-old.
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated that you had seen the video from November the 27th where she says, "My name is Chloe Driver, he has my baby, I'm being forced to go against my will." Is that the video you're talking about?
Correct.
All right.
That is.
And she represented to you that she went back to him and her plan was to get her baby and run, right?
Correct.
Are you aware that after she went back to him, she did get her baby and then she returned to her mother's house for a couple of days?
I am.
Okay. And then he wanted to go look at some property in Knoxville, so she left with him again to go look at property in Knoxville.
Yes.
Okay. So the last time that she returned to him, she actually had the baby with her at her mom's house and she went to him to go look at property.
That was the way I interpreted her narrative, yes.
Okay. And in your review of all the medical records, you said you had 1,200 pages of medical records and collateral information. Is it fair to say that Ms. Driver, of her own volition, at multiple times refused any type of medication to treat any type of psychiatric condition?
That was reported in the medical records from the hospital, yes.
Mm-hmm. And that she specifically reported that it was against her belief system to take any of those medications?
That's what the hospital records indicate, yes.
Okay.
You know what I'm
I want to
curious
talk to
about?
you about
Excuse me, Madam Prosecutor. You know what I'm curious about is there's been a lot of talk about the psychiatric medications and her refusing to take the psychiatric medications while she was in the hospital. But at some point that changed because she is on psychiatric medications in jail. And what I am curious about is if any of the doctors asked this question and if any and got an answer, but also if the prosecutor or the defense asked this question. I'm curious. The question I want to know, or the question I would ask would be, what does Chloe report as having changed her mind about taking this medication? I think that is, I'm curious about that. So, Sunday Doodles, are you on a iPhone or an Android? I don't know what to do if you're on an iPhone, blah, 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 except to check to see if there is an update for YouTube. And also, but if you're on an Android, sometimes the updates for Androids can be glitchy. And I had to do this one time. I had to undo the update. I don't know if you know how to do that. But yeah, sometimes that's what happens. Also, if you are on either one, on an Android or an iPhone, go to your browser and close out all the windows. You might have like too many windows open.
Specifically, the delusions that she reported that relate to Hannah. Well, first let me, let's do that. It's on page 31. Is it fair to say that as it relates to Hannah,
that's a good point, Lisa.
And sort of what she told you about her?
That's a good point. Lisa says not excusing her, but she was still brainwashed. Yes, she'd refused meds and certain treatments. I'm not disputing that, and I would agree with that. What I want to know is, when did that change? And what made it change? What were the circumstances that caused it to change? Because, and this is why I asked this, she was making calls, 617, I believe, was the number given, to Benjamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian. And so I'm curious if, and they were stopped, not by her and not by him, but by the jail. What I'm curious about is the timing of all that. Did she begin taking and acquiescing and agreeing that she needed to be on psychiatric medications before, during, or after those calls stopped? That's what I'm curious about.
Her motivation for committing the act. That
let me rewind this a little
was that it relates to,
so we can hear that question.
Say that as it relates to Hannah and sort of what she told you about her motivation for committing the act, that her delusion was that when she would breastfeed Hannah, she would sort of give Hannah all of her pain and all of her sin.
Yes.
Okay. And did she attribute that to be sort of one of the significant things telling her that she needed to kill Hannah?
It seemed to be a part of the rationale in her mind of why she needed to kill her daughter. Yes, the narrative was very complex, and because the idea is not rational, it's very hard to restate it in terms that equate to rational thoughts. But that seems consistent with the narrative that she portrayed, yes.
Okay. And so you said that it was kind of hard to follow because there was more of a narrative than a concise individual
Correct.
thing. Was the overarching theme of the narrative she gave you that she wanted to kill Hannah to save her?
Correct.
Okay.
To save her from a life of pain and catatonic depression and abuse.
Okay. And is it fair to say that some of that was based upon sort of the reality that she was living in the cult dynamic?
It did seem that the reality in which she was living was all wrapped up in her thought processes as well. While some of the thoughts were irrational, some of the thoughts of feelings of oppression and isolation were indeed what she was experiencing.
Okay. So the isolation and oppression were maybe more reality-based, and then she maybe had some irrational thinking sort of overlapping with her odd ideologies?
Yes, and while it didn't seem that exact narrative was part of the teaching of the group, there was a narrative of that this small number of women in this small chosen group were responsible for the sins of the world. So there was that component as well, that some of the narrative that she had taken on had been a part of the teachings.
Okay. But as it relates to whether the beliefs that she articulated to you are religious teachings based and like genuinely held beliefs, or whether they're over here in the irrational mind that she's on her own independent thinking, whether they're in either category, did everything she articulate to you as her motivation relate to her essentially feeling like she needed to save Hannah?
Yes.
Okay. Did she ever articulate to you in any way that she felt threatened by Hannah?
No.
Did she ever articulate to you that she felt like she needed to defend anybody against Hannah?
No.
Did she ever indicate that Hannah was a danger to anyone around her?
No.
I want to talk to you specifically about what she told you. Obviously, would you agree with me that when we're talking about the question of what somebody's mental state is at the time they commit the crime, we have to look at the crime itself?
Correct.
And that's important for you to get as many details as possible surrounding the actual incident?
It's important to get as many details as possible surrounding the incident in order to compare the individual's narrative to what is indicated in collateral sources to hopefully understand on some level how lucid they were, what was their decision making like, and what were they thinking. Yes.
Okay. And when you say how lucid they were, what do you mean by that?
How clear were their thoughts? Were their thoughts reality-based, and what were their thought processes overall?
Did you, and I can't recall, so refresh my memory, did you request or review any of the officer's body cam footage in this case?
I did not request it.
Okay.
I did not review it. In fact, I did not receive it likely because I did specifically ask not to see visual images.
Okay. But if she was making statements on the scene minutes after she stabbed Hannah, would those things be relevant to how lucid she was and what her mental state was at the time?
They would be, and I believe some of those statements were articulated in the narratives, which I did review.
Okay. So you're aware that she said things on the officer's body cam like, is that it? Is that goodbye? With relation to her daughter dying?
I don't recall that specific statement. I do recall I want to see her one last time, and I think that is documented in my report.
Okay. And do you know anything about her making statements of let him be with her, let him be with her?
I do recall that.
Okay, and that's when officers were trying to make Benjamin leave the room?
I do recall that.
Do you recall any information about the EMT calling Hannah a boy and Chloe Driver correcting her and saying it's a girl?
I do not recall that. I don't dispute that, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you recall any information about something coming over the officer's radio saying the baby's being transported, and Chloe responds by saying, is she alive?
I don't specifically recall that. I recall that question after she was receiving treatment shortly after in the hospital when she had first started to seem to regain consciousness, but I don't recall that from the scene as they were leaving the home.
Okay. What did she report to you about from the time she entered that room with Hannah? How much information and detail did she report to you? It's on page 36 of your report if you want to reference it. About what events took place in that room, what she did.
She was very detailed in her description of what took place in the room, and her detail was provided spontaneously, meaning that I did not have to ask a lot of guided questions. It was very much a spontaneous narrative that she recalled becoming distressed. It seems that she was very much aware that she was having these thoughts of hurting herself and Hannah, and therefore did not want to be in a room by herself, and had attempted to go into the room with the other women, and Ben Michael motioned for her to go into the room alone. And she recalled Hannah not having on a diaper, only having on the rubber cover for the diaper, and asking for a diaper and a shirt, I believe. She recalled breastfeeding her. At some point prior to this, she'd gone back downstairs to get the knife, came into the room, locked the door, recalled getting the dirty shirt when she had asked for a clean shirt in order to make the child presentable, as they were anticipating going to a 12 Tribes meeting at some point in the immediate future. And she recalled getting the dirty shirt and feeling like that was another indication that she was supposed to do this. She was supposed to take her life in Hannah's. She recalled feeding her, calmly lying her down, and then taking the knife and attempting to kill both Hannah and herself.
Okay. And she told you that sort of him, Benjamin, throwing her the dirty shirt was kind of what triggered her, that she wanted to kill herself and kill Hannah.
It was one of the things that triggered her that she described in this series of events in the hours and minutes preceding. But yes, that I believe was the last thing that she described as being a triggering event.
Okay.
I just wanted to pause really quickly to say good luck, Alicia. We're thinking of you, babe. It's going to be it's all going to work out just fine, I promise, but we'll be here when you wake up, okay?
And in your report on page 36, it says, from that moment on, I snapped, talking about the dirty shirt. Would those be her words?
Those are her words.
Okay. And you indicated that she said that she fed Hannah. And isn't it true that she said she fed her and then she laid her down on the bed and she was happy?
Yes.
Okay. And what did she say happened next?
Do you want me to read it word for word, or do you want me to recall from the best of my memory?
Well, I guess I'll kind of walk you through it.
Okay.
She indicated that she went down and grabbed a knife from the kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she told you that she just grabbed a random knife out of the knife block and she didn't even look at it, right?
Correct.
And she went upstairs and she locked the door.
Correct.
Okay. Did you engage in any conversation with her about why she locked the door?
I did not.
Okay. And she indicated that she played a lot of video games, and that in the video games that she played, when you stab someone, they die immediately, right?
Correct.
And so she says, I have the knife, and I'm up here, and I'm up there. I don't know where to stab either of us, and I think the throat might kill us immediately. Is that what she told you?
Correct.
Okay. And so then she said she breastfed her, and she laid her down on the bed, and she was happy. Are you aware that she told another evaluator that when she laid her down on the bed before she stabbed her, she apologized to her?
I was not aware of that.
Okay. Did she tell you that?
She did not. I do not recall her telling me that. I believe if she had told me that, it would be in my report in this paragraph.
Okay. And she then told you, I stabbed her in the throat, but she was not dead. She is just quiet and bleeding out, right?
Correct.
And I stabbed myself in the throat 3 times, and then you put in your report she made a twisting motion to demonstrate. What do you mean by that?
She kind of demonstrated what she was articulating verbally.
Okay. And she told you that at that point, after she had stabbed Hannah in the neck and stabbed herself in the neck, she's standing there wondering, why are we not dying?
Correct.
And at that point, she indicated she heard Z coming upstairs.
Correct.
And that he opened the door, and before he walked in, she was confused about why they weren't dying immediately, and so she tried to stab herself one more time in the heart.
Correct.
All right. And she indicated that in that moment, she thought that they were coming into the room to save them.
Correct.
And she didn't want to be saved because she didn't want to deal with all the pain that she imagined in the world.
Correct.
Okay. Safe to say that her memory about those events was very intact.
That was, yes.
Okay.
Ask if that's common. I don't understand this. Ask her.
Why is, you said, you want to assess whether somebody is lucid, their ability to sort of, what their thought process was. Like, why is it significant and important that somebody has a detailed memory of a particular event?
Well, during psychotic states, people can oftentimes be confused. Sometimes they are not. They can oftentimes be confused. So it's important to assess their level of confusion, how much they can recall. Also, it's very important to, one of the things we're always looking for in cases such as this one is the person a reliable informant, or are they fabricating information and fabricating symptoms in order to achieve a desired outcome. So it's important to compare their narrative to that of collateral sources. So the primary reason for understanding their description of the events is, one, to determine if it aligns or does not align with other sources of information in effort to determine if the person seems forthcoming or if they seem to be presenting information in effort to gain a desired outcome.
Okay, so let's talk about this motive really quickly. So it appears, Lil Red, and this is one of those things that this is what the state has put forth as the motive, that essentially she no longer wanted to be part of a polygamous relationship. She no longer wanted Z to, she was no longer okay with and no longer wanted Z to be with these quote unquote sister wives. Okay. And apparently there was some sort of conversation at some point where she expressed her unhappiness and she expressed her desire to be the one and only. And Z was like, bruh, no. And so she, in an effort to punish him for not picking her as his one and only, she took away his child. That, and also herself. That was her way out of the situation for both her and Hannah. That is what the state alleges. What the defense is alleging is that through the teachings of Z, she was told that the way that she had conceived Hannah was through sin. And so by extension, Hannah was full of sin. Both of them were full of sin and the cause for evil in this world, which makes zero sense on any type of level, because while biblically, religiously, speaking, having a child out of wedlock is not good and considered a sin. Having intimate relationships when you are not married is considered a sin. That part is accurate, but it's not as if Hannah was immaculately conceived. So, or Ben Yamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian wasn't part of the sin that created Hannah. So it's how they were solely, none of it makes any sense. I mean, it is an odd way of thinking. It's an odd way of taking something that is referenced a lot in religion and really and twisting it, which that's not really surprising that somebody would do that. It's just, it's such a twist that it actually makes no sense. It's a mess. And the thing is, what we're trying to do in this situation by understanding a motive is rationalize something that's irrational. Regardless of who the victim and the perpetrator are to each other, murder in and of itself is an irrational act. You know, even when you are defending yourself, and in a true case of self-defense, it's you or them, and you defend yourself and you use deadly force, and the end result is the person dies. You're still not thinking, it's not a rational circumstance, because you're in fear. And when you are, afraid, and you have all that, you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? You're not rational in that moment. So this is why motive is so difficult, and frequently it's not a requirement to prove, because it's very difficult to, first of all, get inside somebody's head and understand why they did what they did, because it's usually not one thing. It's usually layers of things. There's not usually a singular motive, even in trials, right? People's motivations just in the world on a day-to-day are multifaceted in layers. It's not just one thing that motivates people. So it's super complicated, but yeah, that's what's going on here. Okay.
Okay. With regard to information that she may have reported to other evaluators,
No, Ro. The defense at the beginning of the day, which was a little after 10 o'clock, the defense formally rested their case in chief. And Chloe had decided not to testify. She spoke with the judge yesterday evening at the end of the day and said, no, I shan't be testifying. And she did have up until the defense formally rested their case in chief to change her mind. She didn't change her mind. And so the answer is no, she did not testify. Okay, here we go.
if she told Dr. Ballard, when specifically asked if she knew whether her behavior was wrong, yeah, as soon as it happened, I regretted it. I thought I shouldn't have done this. This was not supposed to happen.
I'm going to rewind that so you can hear that question. But this is really the crux of all of it, Horror Hose. It's right. You're right. Horror Hose says, isn't the misogyny of this particular cult part of the ideas that the women are the source of all evil, and therefore the men are absolved of responsibility? Yes, it is a incredibly warped ideology that I think, to me, what it sounds like is based on the story of Eve in the Garden of Eden with the serpent and the apple. That story. It's a very, very twisted and warped version version that is the substance or the basis for their ideology in this group. I hope that made sense. All right, here we go.
Would that be consistent with how she presented to you?
Yes, she didn't.
Hold on, I'm going to rewind this. Sorry.
Anything.
Shouldn't have done her. If she told Dr. Ballard, when specifically asked if she knew whether her behavior was wrong, yeah, as soon as it happened, I regretted it. I thought I shouldn't have done this. This was not supposed to happen. Would that be consistent with how she presented to you?
Yes, she didn't state anything to me that indicated otherwise.
Okay.
It's not inconsistent with what she described to me.
Okay. And if she told Dr. Garrett, she recalled apologizing to Hannah and telling her how much she loved her before she stabbed her, but she was at peace with it, but that she knew it was wrong from the beginning. Would that be inconsistent with what she reported to you?
It's not inconsistent with what she reported to me.
Okay. And doctor, I took note in your report that you did not diagnose her with anything.
That is correct.
Why not?
So the experts in the field of psychology, the individuals who are experts on these types of evaluations, differ in their own opinions as to whether or not we should render a diagnosis in this type of evaluation. One school of thought says that a diagnosis helps the jury and the attorneys and helps psychologists in general to understand a person's mental state at the time, even though it doesn't necessarily describe their mental state at the time. It helps us understand a set of symptoms and helps explain behavior. The other school of thought says that the diagnosis can be confusing because the diagnosis doesn't necessarily align all the time with mental state at the time of the offense, and people can make certain assumptions based on diagnosis alone and may make inadequate judgments. So in other words, it can be reckless to do so because a diagnosis can communicate to a layperson information that is not what we're intending.
Okay. And what school of thought were you in not diagnosing her in this criminal responsibility report?
So I did not render a diagnosis. My reason was it's not critical to answer the referral question. The referral question pertains to her mental state at the time of the offense, and a diagnosis would not necessarily explain her mental state at the time of the offense. The diagnoses that I considered, one, people can have very negative assumptions when they see this diagnosis, and then another diagnosis, people automatically make assumptions about psychotic symptoms. So without having the opportunity to explain her mental state, I did not want for the diagnosis that I rendered to communicate information about what I perceived to be her mental state at the time of the alleged offense. I prefer to articulate that verbally rather than to put a diagnosis on a report and possibly not have the opportunity to explain it.
Okay. And is your thought process on that because whether or not she has a diagnosable mental illness is a question of medicine, and whether or not somebody is criminally insane is a question of law?
Correct.
And somebody can have a mental illness and not be criminally insane?
Correct.
And is that what you mean by sort of creating confusion?
In part, and someone can assume that a diagnosis means that mental health symptoms would not account for behavior at the time. So both situations, what you just said, and conversely, that someone could assume that other behaviors account for, that other explanations account for behaviors at the time of the alleged offense other than mental illness.
Okay. And I'm almost done, doctor, but I just want to sort of wrap up. You told us already that none of her delusions related to Hannah being a threat, harm, danger, or peril to her or anyone else, correct?
Correct.
And that all of her delusions related to Hannah and her need to kill Hannah was to save Hannah. Is that correct?
The delusions that involved Hannah seem to relate to her need to kill Hannah to save her, yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Zime. How are you?
Well, sir, thank you.
Just to follow up on that last set of questions, to be clear, Ms. Driver's delusions were not simply related to killing her daughter, correct? They were killing herself and her daughter, right?
Correct. And there were many delusional thought processes as well, but those that pertain to the alleged offense pertain to killing both herself and Hannah, correct?
And the action she took on December 8th was consistent with that delusion, meaning she stabbed her daughter and also attempted to kill herself, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to rewind it and we're going to listen to his question again, but because I really want to talk about this question that Horror Host has posed because I think it's an important question. So Horror Host says, wouldn't a diagnosis of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder have an impact if it was determined at the time of the offense? The way that I understand the law, and let me preface this by saying I am not an attorney. These are just my layperson opinions. I have not gone to law school. I'm basing my opinion on my interpretation of the way the law has been explained to me and through this trial and other trials. The way that I understand the law is that two things can exist at the same time and yet not meet the burden of a not guilty by reason of insanity. Meaning she can have schizophrenia or schizoaffective or disorder at the time that she committed the crime. However, because of the actions of the crime itself, both preceding the actual event, during the event, and after the event, are more relevant to determining not guilty by reason of insanity than the actual diagnosis. That is the way that I understand the law, and that is the way that I interpreted and understood the psychiatrist's explanation of why she doesn't give a diagnosis. Because I think what she's saying is that people will get hung up on the diagnosis and say, okay, especially a diagnosis of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, that must mean that she is constantly in a delusional state, and therefore it rises to the level that meets the burden of proof for not guilty by reason of insanity, when in fact those things can exist and even, be a part of it, but yet not rise to the level of not guilty of by reason of insanity. The delusion or the mental health disorder must be so great that the person cannot appreciate the wrongness of what they are doing and change and comport their behavior accordingly. That is how I understand it. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I went on a whole Miss America tangent that might not even have made sense. All right, so now we're going to start with the defense.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Zahn. How are you?
Well, sir, thank you.
Just to follow up on that last set of questions, to be clear, Ms. Driver's delusions were not simply related to killing her daughter, correct? They were killing herself and her daughter, right?
Correct. And there were many delusional thought processes as well, but those that pertain to the alleged offense pertain to killing both herself and Hannah, correct?
Just one moment, because I would like to show you guys this. Horror Host says, ooh, side note, only tangentially related. I am tooting my own horn a bit, but I'm finally going to school to become a lawyer. I start classes in January. Congratulations. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yay. Congratulations. And also to this point, Jennifer says, if she apologized to Hannah, then she did appreciate that what she did was wrong. That's correct. You don't apologize when you're right.
And the action she took on December 8th was consistent with that delusion, meaning she stabbed her daughter and also attempted to kill herself, right?
Correct.
Okay. So let's kind of walk through your background. I may have missed this a little bit. You indicated that a lot of your forensic work after obtaining your doctorate was in Mississippi. Is that right?
Not after, before.
Before, okay.
During training.
How long were you there in Mississippi?
A year.
A year?
Correct.
And when did you get your psych D? That's called.
I think
right?
I graduated in 2013. 2012, I'm sorry.
Got a page. 2012, your PsyD, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then after that, you spent a year in Mississippi. At
The year was before.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So 2011-ish in Mississippi.
2011 to 2012, correct.
Got your PsyD
In 2012, the end of 2012.
And then
You both can't talk at the same time. It's difficult for the court reporter, but are you listening to the answer, or are you just listening to ask another question?
you came back to Georgia
Correct.
to start practicing.
Correct.
Okay. Did you begin work at that point in time in 2012 with Georgia Psychology?
I did not. I did not return to work immediately, and I did not begin work. And well, I did briefly. I did not continue. I did not continue continuously during that time frame.
Okay. So who did you first work for when you
Georgia
started?
Psychological.
Okay. And when was that? When did you start with them?
2012, end of 2012 or beginning of 2013.
Okay. So I guess I'm slightly confused there. How much work did you do for them?
So I worked with them for a year. I think there were about 3 years that my clinical work was minimal. And then I resumed work with them in 2015, and that is where I remained until this summer, until July 2024.
Okay. And I think you opened your own practice.
That is
over the
correct.
summer. Okay. All right. So you had a few years there where you weren't doing as much work with them.
Correct.
But got back to that in 2015. Okay. Since 2015, I think your testimony earlier was you've done a lot of different evaluations at Georgia Psychological.
Correct.
Just general psychological evaluations of individuals, right?
Yes. Most of my work with Georgia Psychological pertained to child custody, child protective services.
Defects, as
Yes.
we refer to it.
Yes.
so-
Also some disability adjudication
Okay.
referral questions.
And you said that you had much less frequent requests for criminal responsibility exams that you've done in this case, right?
Correct.
How many criminal responsibility exams do you think you've done since 2015?
Since 2015, only a handful. I was heavily involved in criminal responsibility during my internship. Since 2015, only a handful, I would say 4 or 5.
Okay. And the one that you've conducted in this case with Ms. Driver, that was just in the last 6 months, right?
Correct.
You evaluated her in May of 2024.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Shmita. Shmita has been a member of the channel for 26 months. Thank you, Shmita. Love you.
Of you said 4 or 5 roughly criminal responsibility exams?
Correct.
Is this the first exam that you conducted that you've actually had to testify about?
This
in a
is the
court
first
proceeding?
time. No, it isn't. This is the second that
Okay.
I've provided testimony.
Okay, so it's fair to say, Dr. Zahn, that, and you're familiar with this in conducting forensic evaluations back in Mississippi as well, many of the criminal responsibility exams that you would conduct, you generally do not testify about those in court, right?
Correct.
Because ultimately you believe that the person does not exhibit significant signs to be deemed insane under law. Is that right?
Yes, statistically, the number who are deemed, well, first, it's not a defense that is often presented, and secondly, the number who are deemed to fit the criteria is very small, even as a percentage of the number who present with that defense.
Correct.
So yes, that is correct.
Okay. And
So again, you see the conundrum between the law and what's going on. There's the people who present a not guilty by reason of insanity defense. The number of those people is low. And the number of people who actually qualify under the law as not guilty by reason of insanity is lower still. This is an incredibly difficult defense to mount. The law is very, very clear on what it is, what you need to prove in order to establish not guilty by reason of insanity. The bar for it is extremely high. So Roro asks, has she been in jail this whole time or out on bond? She's been in jail this whole time.
And you have conducted criminal responsibility exams on behalf of defendants in cases, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And that process is typically where, based on the given facts of a case or circumstances that a lawyer has seen based on reviewing the evidence, they believe there might be an issue with a client and they are requesting you to make an evaluation, right?
That is my understanding of how it would come to me as a referral, yes.
At no time does any defense lawyer call you up and say, Dr. Zaum, I need you to find that this person is diagnosed with these mental health disorders so that we can create this defense.
No one has ever said that.
Okay. So whether or not to pursue a not guilty by reason of insanity or a competency evaluation in a case is based on the defendant's mental state that is presented in the facts of the case.
That is my understanding, absolutely.
Okay. Now, in this case, you indicated that you looked at various collateral sources that were provided to you, I think, by the DA's office.
That is
right?
correct.
And the list of those included Chloe's medical records from Kennestone, right?
Correct.
Included the interviews from law enforcement, both with Ms. Driver and some of the other witnesses that were at the home at the date of this incident, right?
Correct.
You reviewed some cell phone searches, right?
Correct.
Some jail calls from Ms. Driver at the jail.
Correct.
And then this video that she recorded at the end of November with respect to going back to get her daughter, right?
Correct.
Did you review police reports from Asheville?
I did.
Okay. Was that one or two different police reports? Do you recall?
I think there is two, but I would have to reference my report to say that with certainty.
Okay. Let me ask you this way. Do you recall an incident where Ms. Driver was running out into the road
Yes.
trying to get away from Mr. Benyamin?
I do recall that.
Okay.
I recall that from her narrative as well as the police report, yes.
Okay. And then do you also recall a separate incident in which she called the police because Mr. Benyamin actually left with her child and took off with her?
Yes, I think I may not have been clear that that was in Asheville, but I do recall that incident as well. I think I may have presumed that that was at the location where her mother was residing, that call was placed.
And I'm not going to hold you to what's in those reports. We've actually heard testimony of witnesses that were there when those incidents happened. So, but you did review those?
Yes.
Okay. The cell phone searches that you reviewed, well, let me back up. The medical records that you reviewed, you don't find any dispute or disagreement with the medical records that indicated that Ms. Driver was suffering from delusions while she was in the hospital, do you?
That is correct. I think I cited in my report that I believed the sources of information that were presented over time to be highly consistent.
And she was also, I think, reporting some hallucinations while she was still in the hospital as well. Is that right?
I think that it was noted in the mental health records. I can't recall if they clearly articulated what those were, but I do recall that being noted in the mental health records from the hospital.
Okay. Those reports of delusions and hallucinations were consistent with other collateral sources that you had regarding Ms. Driver's state of mind leading up to this incident December 8th, right?
That is correct.
Reports from the other individuals that were interviewed were all reporting her state of mind or a destabilization of her mental state. Is that fair?
Correct.
And I think you also reviewed an audio recording that Mr. Benyamin had that he had provided to law enforcement on which she was talking about these delusions that she was experiencing, right?
Correct.
So it's clear based on your review of the records, that Miss Driver was absolutely going through stages of paranoia, experiencing delusions, and dealing with hallucinations in this build up to December 8th.
That is correct.
Okay. The cell phone searches, particularly, there are a couple of specific searches that she conducted, actually looking up the definition or the idea of schizophrenia. Is that right?
I recall the mention of schizophrenia. I would have to look at my report to know if she was looking up to see what it meant, but I do recall the mention of schizophrenia in one of her searches, correct?
Page 11 of your report, I think, Dr. Zom, indicates the cell phone searches.
Yeah, I think it's just the word schizophrenia.
Okay. And she did that on 2 different days, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And she also looked up topics such as the whole world is programming me, correct?
Correct.
And she looked up on November 11th mental institutions in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Correct.
Now,
So Horror Host says religious trauma and cult brainwashing is real and leads to horrible outcomes too frequently. Absolutely. I'm of the opinion that there is a level of trauma, of brainwashing, all surrounding her participation and relationship with Ben Michael, Z, Brian, and this cult. I agree with all of that. The problem that comes in is, again, what her mental state was at the time that she committed the crime. And it's my opinion, at this point, and this always is subject to change because I haven't had an opportunity to listen to all of the testimony from the expert witnesses and all that. So this is my opinion right now at 11:37 a.m. on November 19th, 2024, and it's subject to change. But at this point, from what I have heard, it doesn't appear to me that under the law that it rises to the level of the burden required to prove not guilty by reason of insanity.
now, were you aware her parents lived in Knoxville?
I was.
Okay. So is that possibly something she was looking at in order to try to get help for the issues she was dealing with?
It seems so, and she mentioned multiple times that she had tried to get help and had asked for help.
Yeah, she was telling Mr. Benjamin and the 2 other wives and the other people that she was around that she needed help for the issues that she was going through, right?
That is correct.
And you understood that this religious philosophy that Mr. Benjamin had was to exclude the access to traditional medical treatment, right?
That was my understanding.
I guess I should say modern day medical treatment, not traditional medical treatment, right?
That is my understanding.
He did not want Miss Driver to be in a hospital, right?
That is my understanding.
In fact, he didn't even want Miss Driver in a hospital when their child was born, right?
That was my understanding based on what she reported.
He did not want her to be institutionalized in any way, shape, or form, right?
That was certainly my understanding.
And he's
All right, but the flip side of that is this. So it is the belief system that existed in Ben Michael, Z, Brian, that there should be no medical intervention of any type whatsoever, including mental health, and no medication given, including prescription medication. Okay. So that's the argument, right? And the other argument is that Chloe was completely 100% indoctrinated and brainwashed into this type of thinking. Okay, yet simultaneously she's searching how to get help for various potential mental illnesses, which is those two actions are counterintuitive. They don't match. If you are completely and totally brainwashed into thinking that that medical care, whether it be for your body or for your body as a whole, or specifically for mental health, then how are you going on the Googles and searching for mental health issues and help and solutions? See, to me, that those two things don't align, and they're occurring at the same time. So this is where I'm given pause about all of this.
You certainly didn't want her to be on any pharmaceutical drugs.
That was my understanding as well.
And she was telling you that because he didn't want her breastfeeding their child with medicine flowing through her body, right?
I don't know if that was stated as the reason that he didn't want that. My perception was that it seemed to be more so consistent with his overall beliefs. I don't recall it being specifically from his rationale about the breastfeeding. I do recall her mentioning having some concerns about what she would ingest in breastfeeding, but I believe my perception was that him not wanting her to have medication was part of his overall philosophy of how this group of people should engage with the world.
And it was clear to you also that she, in a sense, was somewhat rejecting that idea of his philosophy, right? Because
it did seem certainly that she had started to reject his philosophy.
Even back to when the baby was born, she did not want to leave the hospital that quickly after the birth of the baby. Is that right?
That was my perception based on what she stated, yes.
She had indicated previous to the child's birth that she thought that they needed to be seeking prenatal care for the child, right?
That was my understanding.
And particularly in this instance, she was searching for mental health institutions. She was searching for schizophrenia as a way to understand what she was going through. Is that fair?
I don't believe I asked her exactly why she was researching schizophrenia, but I certainly would not dispute that.
Your medical opinion as a psychologist, someone that is suffering from paranoia and delusions and hallucinations, those are all symptoms that are consistent with somebody that could be diagnosed with schizophrenia. Is that fair?
With a psychotic disorder, yes.
Yeah. The other two evaluators in this case, Dr. Ballard and Dr. Garrett, do you know either of them?
I don't know them. I did listen to their testimony, but I do not know them prior to this hearing.
And you're aware, based on listening to their testimony, I know you didn't read their reports, but listening to their testimony, they both diagnosed Ms. Driver with schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, correct?
Yes.
And borderline personality disorder, right?
Correct.
Do you have any issues or take any issues with those diagnoses that they made?
I do not take issues with those diagnosis. I think it was clear from the history that she likely meets criteria for borderline personality disorder, as well as there are both mood symptoms and psychotic symptoms, which is captured by the diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, but could also be captured by other diagnoses. But yes, mood symptoms and psychotic symptoms are part of the clinical picture.
Okay. Yeah, you testified that there's a difference of opinion about whether or not in a forensic setting you should make a diagnosis.
Correct.
And I grant you that. You don't have any concern that Dr. Ballard and Dr. Garrett both made that.
No.
What you said you were considering some diagnoses. What were those diagnoses?
Borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder with psychotic features, or an unspecified psychotic disorder. I am very reluctant to diagnose schizoaffective disorder only because the particulars of that diagnosis, the minutiae details, are very difficult to capture from someone's self-report alone. So I'm very reluctant to assign that diagnosis if I didn't observe it within an inpatient setting.
Okay. Is it excuse me, is it fair to say that you're conducting this evaluation some 3.5 years after the incident would also affect your ability to make a specific diagnosis of her in terms of her symptoms that she was exhibiting at the time that this happened?
I think she was incredibly vivid in describing her symptoms, and the mental health records are voluminous. So I wouldn't have necessarily had concerns about assigning a diagnosis for that reason.
Okay. But at the end of the day, your diagnosis is pretty close to Dr. Garrett and Dr. Ballard.
That is correct.
All right. How long was your interview with Ms. Driver?
I believe that it was around 3 hours.
Okay. And it was on one day, correct?
It was.
When you met with her, she reported at the time that she had been on medication at the jail for some time, right?
Correct.
And I think in talking to you outside, you did indicate that you don't believe you received any jail medical records.
I don't believe that I received mental health records from the jail.
Okay. So you don't know specifically what medications she had been on while she was out there, other than what she reported to you?
So I know what she reported to me. She also was articulate in, I believe, stating what she previously was prescribed, and I believe that is noted within my report. It was also noted on some of the hospital records what she was prescribed at the time of discharge. I will say that I don't speak to the specifics of what medications are prescribed for. Even though a Google search may say they're prescribed for one thing, I believe that should be left to the psychiatrists and the medical treatment providers. I'm not a prescribing physician, and my experience is that most medications are prescribed for different things. Even though they may primarily be used to treat one thing, they're also used to treat other things. So I would defer any questions about medication.
Okay, so Horror Hose asks, so they do believe she has a psychotic disorder, but not that she was in psychosis at the time of the offense. Both this witness and the state, that is their belief, yes. However, the defense's expert witnesses believe the opposite. They believe that she was in a state of psychosis at the time of the offense, and that it was such that she meets the criteria for not guilty by reason of insanity.
But at the time you interviewed her, your belief was that she had been on medication for some time.
Correct.
And that she seemed to be fairly stable on that medication.
She did note that she had been taken off one medication and that she had experienced an increase in some symptoms, not psychotic symptoms. It seems she had gotten into a fight, and that was out of character for her. She had been on some medication for a very long time, but it seemed that medication had been changed.
Okay. But she, as far as it related to her psychotic symptoms, such as the delusions and hallucinations, the medication that she was on had been addressing those.
That was my belief, yes.
Okay. And that is how you perceived her when you were interviewing
Yes.
her, right?
She did not seem psychotic when I interviewed her.
Okay. Dr. Zom, someone like Ms. Driver that had exhibited the symptoms that she, as you talked about, was clearly showing to others, the paranoia, the delusions, the hallucinations, before this incident. If someone is experiencing those things and is not getting treatment, is it fair to say that her condition will continue to worsen?
It's certainly expected in most cases that someone who is experiencing psychotic symptoms will continue to deteriorate in the absence of medication.
Is it also fair to say that someone that is not being treated for those illnesses and experiencing those symptoms, those delusions that she is hearing and receiving, it is going to grow harder and harder for her to not succumb to those.
So mental health symptoms, psychotic symptoms can be transient. They can come and go. They can worsen and lessen in severity. However, she was also in a stressful situation. So yes, it would be highly unlikely that her condition would spontaneously improve in the absence of treatment or removal of a stressor.
And it's clear from some of her cell phone searches that she was having these delusions about killing herself. She was actually searching things to kill someone, right?
Yes.
Now, there's no indication that she was searching to kill herself or someone else, just searching to kill some person, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And she
Wait a minute.
Searching for.
That was some really good lawyer double talk. Because the question was that her searches were not specific, meaning she didn't type in her search how to break a 13-month-old's neck, right? Or how to kill a 13-month-old to save them. Wow, that was okay.
Other things as well in a manner to basically extricate herself from the environment that she was in.
Correct.
Even on the December 8th, where she was searching for a bus ticket.
Correct.
But for her child, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, let me talk to you about delusions to kill somebody. If I'm suffering a delusion that I need to kill the judge, and the judge knows I know her very well, and I think she's a great judge, so that would clearly be a delusion in our sense. But hypothetically, if I'm suffering from a delusion and that delusion is telling me that I have to kill her for whatever reason that is it common that in that delusional state I would search for a weapon?
It's not uncommon.
It would be consistent with my thinking in that delusional state that if I have to kill her, I have to do something to do that, correct?
Correct.
I have to find a weapon, a gun, a knife, some type of object for which I can carry out my plan, correct?
It's not unexpected.
Right. So if I did not have a weapon, I might search around for one, right? Like I might look.
Right, like you might search around in your physical space for a knife or some other type of weapon, a baseball bat, something, a crowbar, something like that. But I don't think that you would take it to Google. Certainly wouldn't. And don't take it to YouTube. But whatever. My point is that I think I understand where he's going. Let me just let him get there before I make a comment.
Where's a weapon in this room that I can grab? What can I do with it, right?
Certainly.
But that's being done in that delusional state because I'm not capable at that point in time of thinking that, whoa, this isn't the right move, right? I'm delusional.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, a delusion is a fixed false belief in an idea, right?
Correct.
So if I have a fixed false belief that I have to carry out a plan to kill somebody, my mentality is going to tell me do whatever it takes for me to carry out that goal, right?
That is correct. I do think it's important to state that while she was suffering from delusions, her delusions were not as fixed as they are in some situations, which is also apparent in her internet searches. She's going back and forth between questioning the ideas of what she's being taught, questioning her own ideas, trying to look for a bus ticket to escape her situation while also looking up ways to kill someone. So yes, delusional, yes, she was suffering from delusions, not as entirely fixed as we do see in some situations.
Okay, I see where he's going. Hold on, sir. So what he's saying is, he's asking the psychologist, if a person is in a delusional state, that delusional state, is it fixed in that all of the actions that an individual does while in that state of mind, are all part of the delusions. And what the doctor is saying, or what the psychologist is saying, which she's a doctor, what she's saying is yes and no. There are cases where a person is delusional and their delusions are so great and fixed that every action they take in that state is part and parcel of the delusion. What she's saying as it pertains to Chloe, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that her delusional state was not fixed, that it came and it went, because while she was under a delusional state, she was searching ways, methods of killing somebody, while also in the same time period, okay, searching how to get help for mental health or mental illness, for schizophrenia, stuff like that. And also like a bus ticket, which is not delusional. I misspoke, Nate. I'm sorry. Yes, she is a doctor. And I don't know what was wrong with me in that moment. I apologize. But that's what she's saying, is that yes, but yes, that happens, but that doesn't apply in this situation. And here is why. Okay, let's keep going.
As far as how fixed or how severe those delusions are going to change over time, right?
For many people, they do. For someone with a purely delusional disorder, they may not. But for someone with her, what we believe to be her diagnosis, yes, we would expect her symptoms to fluctuate over time.
Between sanity and insanity, and I know that's
and it's a spectrum of varying degrees.
And she told you that on December the 8th, they woke up and went to a 12 Tribes meeting that morning, correct?
Correct.
And she told you that at that 12 Tribes meeting, they talked about death, and she interpreted that discussion about death as a delusional reference to her, that she needed to kill herself.
I do believe I recall her talking about the meaning she assigned to the 12 tribes, of perceiving that to be a message to her that she needed to kill herself, that she needed to do it.
And
well, this is really the crux of the situation, isn't it, Horror Hose? Okay, so Horror says, wouldn't that support the idea that she was volleying back and forth between the religious delusions and the reality she wished to escape? To me, that makes the unknown of the time of offense a factor. See, this is where there is a disparity between the humanity of a crime, the human factor, and the law. Because the law is very specific and very black and white when it comes to establishing the criteria that is necessary to render a not guilty by reason of insanity verdict, okay? To find the person not guilty by reason of insanity. The law is very black and white, but the human component is very, very gray. You know, sanity and insanity is a spectrum. There's many, many different shades. And to try and narrow that down to just one specific moment in time is so difficult, because even just in everyday life, okay, humans, their motivations for doing things, their thought process for doing things, even if it's one specific thing, like something mundane, like washing the dishes, there are external and internal things that are occurring simultaneously that this is where there is a disparity, and this is where it makes it very complicated because of the black and whiteness of the law and the gray that is human beings.
She took that message in her mind. She took that message as this has got to be the day that this happens at the time, right?
That seems correct with what she told me, yes.
And when they got to Canton that day around lunchtime, she was forced to go up into a room by herself. Is that right?
That is correct.
And she was forced to be in that room even though she was telling Mr. Benjamin she did not want to be alone.
That is what she reported, yes.
Because of what she had already been experiencing that
That
day,
is
right?
correct.
She took the sign of being by herself in that room alone again as an additional signal that she needed to kill herself.
Correct.
Right? And then ultimately she told you that the final straw, as it were, was getting this dirty shirt sent up to her, right?
Correct.
And she interpreted that dirty shirt as the last signal to her that she was not capable of living. She and her child were not capable of living, right?
Yes, I don't think those were her exact words, capable, but yes, she took it to mean that they weren't worth anything.
It was consistent with her delusions that she had been experiencing that entire day, beginning that morning they woke up, right?
Correct.
And it was at that point where she got the shirt that she went downstairs to get this knife, right?
I believe that is correct.
One second, Judge.
Ms. Gropper, any further questions of this witness?
Just briefly, a moment ago you said that she took the dirty shirt to mean that they weren't worth anything. So her viewpoint of why she carried out the act at that moment, as she expressed to you, was that in that moment she felt like her and Hannah were worthless.
I would have to go back and read my words to know directly, but I recall her saying when she got the shirt, it meant that it was her language if they weren't worth anything. I don't know if I took that to mean that they were worthless.
All right. And you indicated that Miss Driver's delusions were not as fixed as some.
Right.
She had significant periods of lucidity and stability and ability to engage with the world around her.
Yes, someone with a diagnosis of a delusional disorder has very fixed delusions that do not fluctuate over time and are impossible to challenge. The nature of her mental illness was such that she was fluctuating and questioning different sets of beliefs at different times.
Okay. And some of those questioning sets of beliefs may have been related to her religious ideological views?
Yes.
Okay. And some of it may have been related to her mental health?
Correct. She articulated times at which she questioned her own mental health symptoms.
Okay. And Mr. Kessler asked you about, that she was begging these people for help and that they weren't giving it to her. Did she indicate to you at all when her and Hannah went and spent 2 days with her mother just prior to the murder whether or not she sought out treatment or assistance from her parents?
I don't recall if she articulated the particulars of seeking out treatment. I do recall that she stated that while she was there, she then started to become paranoid of her parents and of the things that were going on around her.
Okay. And you indicated that you had reviewed some jail communication prior to your evaluation of her.
Correct.
Were you at any time aware of anyone communicating to Ms. Driver that if she acted normal in your evaluation, she would be screwing herself?
I am.
Okay. And who was that?
Her father.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Anything else of this witness? All right, thank you, Ben. You may be excused. All right, we are going to take a recess at this time. We're going to let you be in recess until 1:15. Leave us your notepads. Don't talk to each other. Be back in the jury room at 11:15, 10:45.
Let's see if they have anything they want to discuss with that. So I don't know. Court TV goes away whenever there's like, but I don't know if Law and Crime does because I've been streaming from Court TV. So I don't know if if there's anything they need to discuss, if they're gonna like let us hear it. So I can always skip forward though since we're behind. Oh, we're significantly behind too. Hold on. We're just enough behind that we don't even have to worry about the break.
The state has rebuttal evidence.
Yay for Jen yakking too much. Okay, before we get into the state's rebuttal, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the religious aspect of this case and the religious component that actually adds another layer of complexity to this situation, okay? So one of the things that I learned from the case against Lori Vallow is that due to the nature of religion in and of itself, and I think this is why the prosecutor is asking the questions the way that she is, that religious ideation in and of itself has to be considered separately from any mental health diagnosis or the level of delusion, etc. Because if you think about it from a purely scientific, and again, remember the law is very black and white, and this is how the law looks at religion, okay? That if you think about religion is something that is not something that you can, it's not tangible. That's how you use the word tangible correctly, Jason Spillers, just so you know. You can't see it, taste it, feel it, smell it. You can't, it's an abstract, right? And if you take their religious beliefs, they believe in something abstract that they can't see, none of their five senses, right? And so I want to explain it as I know what I want to say, but I'm hesitant to say it because I don't want people to be offended. This is not my way of thinking. I believe that everybody has the right to practice as long as it's legal and not harming anybody else. Your belief about religion or not, your non-belief, either way, it's all up to you. But as it pertains to trials, okay, if you take religion and religious beliefs, just for example, Christianity, just in general, right? Christians believe in a God that they cannot see. It's a very abstract thought. It's all faith. You take it all on faith, okay? And so in that way, that's why they separate the religious aspect from the other part. And that is why the prosecutor is asking the questions that she's asking, because while not everybody believes the same way and not everybody interprets their religion in the same way, we're all free to do that. And so if, even though one person's beliefs may be vastly different from another person's beliefs, that doesn't make person A in suffering from delusions and person B not suffering from delusions. Does that make sense? And so that is why the prosecutor is asking the questions that she's asking, i.e., with respect to this last meeting and the things that were discussed in this 12 tribes meeting, and Chloe interpreting the discussion as sort of the fates aligning, and that it was a signal to her to move forward with this plan to kill herself and to kill Hannah. Okay. That in and of itself is not a delusion. People frequently interpret many things that to one person may be something completely innocuous. For example, the time, when the time says 11:11, there are people that say, oh, it's 11:11, make a wish, right? And there are people that are just like, it's 11:11. What does that even mean? That's just a time. So if I am a person that says, which I am, 11:11, make a wish, that doesn't make me delusional. And the person who says 11:11 is just a time, not delusional. And that's why they're separating out the religious aspect of this, of the circumstances, and the mental health issues in this case. So Chloe being at a meeting where death was discussed, and there were all these things that happened that to the casual observer would feel like they were innocuous. If she asked for a shirt and was given a dirty shirt, I would perceive that as, if it were me, I would be like, we have to be somewhere. The baby's going to be out in public. Why would you hand me a dirty shirt? That's, I would be annoyed by that. Where Chloe interpreted that as another sign, as if the fates were aligning to tell her, yes, this is what you need to do. And there isn't, that in and of itself is not indicative of a delusion, because it falls under her religious beliefs. So Jennifer asks, just curious, why do you make a wish? Because 11:11, all ones like that, is often a sign that all the stars are aligned. It's how do I explain it? Like sort of like a renewal, and it's considered to be like an angel number. So it's also like an old wives' tale. I don't know why I say 11:11, make a wish, because most of the time I don't actually make a wish. I just acknowledge that it's 11:11. So I don't actually. Here you go. Here's what Nadine says. Same reason you do it when you blow out your birthday candle. 11:11 is an angel number, so it's just like putting something you want out into the universe. Yes. Yes. And Horror Host says, Jennifer, I do it because 1 is a starting point, and all 1, 11:11 is the best place to start. So start with a wish. That's why. Yes. They explained it so much better than I could. But yeah, that's why. All right. So now that we've had these deep spiritual conversations, which are important because, you know, when somebody is sitting on a jury, they're bringing their whole being to the jury box, all of their experience, their common sense, all of the things that make them them. So when I perceive things in a trial, right, I'm basing my perceptions on the total package that is Jen Liu, all the things that have gone into making me me. Just like you interpret things because of the magic and all the things that go into making you uniquely you. And so when and these types of discussions are important, I think, because there is a disparity between the human aspect of a crime and the law. And I do think that it's interesting it makes for interesting conversation. All right, so now let's see what the state puts on for their rebuttal.
Evidence that it is going to present at this time.
And this too. If you see 1111, it's a sign from your angels that you're on the right path.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you state your name?
Deanna Jarrett.
Right. Ms. Jarrett, you'd previously testified that part of your responsibilities at the district attorney's office is reviewing jail calls and jail communication.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your Honor.
Are we going to get to listen to jail calls, y'all? Now, see, this is another good question. Horror host says, I wonder if the jury voir dire included questions on religious trauma. I would think that it would be yes. I think the answer to that is yes. All right, here we go, because I think we might be getting to listen to jail calls. All right, here we go.
At this time, I would tender States Exhibit 134 and 135 by agreement of the parties.
No objection.
States 134 and 135 are admitted.
Okay. Are you familiar with what is represented in States 134 and 135?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And what are those?
They're jail calls that Chloe Driver made to her mother, Renee Driver. These calls were made in February of 2021. The first call was February the 21st of 2021, and the second call is February the 23rd of 2021.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm publishing States Exhibit 134, which is the February 21st, 2021 call.
Thank you. Please remain on the line. Hold for acceptance. This is a prepaid call from
Chloe Driver.
an inmate at the Cherokee County Jail, Georgia, carried by Consolidated Telecom. Three-way or call waiting is not allowed and may automatically disconnect this call. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. If you are an attorney or designated legal counsel, contact inmatesales.com at 702-931-3938 to have your number set to do not record. Please select from the following options if you consent to this call being recorded, and to accept this call, dial 1 now. To reject this call, your call has been accepted. Chloe?
Yeah.
Hey! I saw the 386 number. And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, it's just this weird thing, like, it's gonna, what's it called, like, mirror your number. Like, if I call anybody, it's gonna mirror your number. I don't know why it does that, but it's
Okay. So I called twice, and I'm like, who do I know in Florida that's in jail? I'm like, my two other jailbirds are right here in this house.
right.
So I go look at Tyler here, and I'm like, well, I don't need to answer those calls, because I don't need to know
But now if I know it's you, I'll answer. Right. Yeah.
Well, so I assume you're in regular.
Yeah, I'm in medical. They moved me. I have a roommate. It's been really good.
Okay, just be careful of what you say.
Yeah.
Are you more comfortable over there, or do you have a, like, you
But they're going to move us to a quieter part, I think. They're going to move us to a quieter part medical.
I still don't understand what medical is. I don't get why you're not in whatever. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's just whatever. I don't know. I know if I ask, they can like look into it for me, but right now I'm okay where I'm at. Like I remain, I'm really struggling at the moment, so.
Okay. You get okay on snacks and books?
Yeah, I mean, I would like, if you could add like 500. And just keep, yeah, like 500, because I put all my money on the phone, like 100 left. I put it onto the phone. It's expensive calling. Yeah, if you could.
Wow, so you could possibly set up for, that's a lot of money that you're spending on writing.
It's like $3 for 15. It's like $3 or $4 for 15 minutes.
So you've been calling quite a bit?
No, I just within the last, yeah, not really. I mean, I'm saying I have $100 left from the 200 that you put on. But now I'm asking for 500 to be put on. Because, you know,
So you can call Brian. Okay. So you can call Brian.
I did call him. We talked, and is Dad able to meet with him in like Waynesville or Silva
Nope.
tomorrow
For what?
for the money?
Chloe, Dad? No. No. I'm not going to do it. His dad is yours, and you're going to get it for the rest, for however long you're in jail.
What?
That money is for you to eat and to survive on.
And he's going. He's gonna give me the money too. Like he said he will. Like it's.
No, he won't. No, he won't. You're going to be dropped out of his life the next year. I promise you.
Fine.
What? The money is not even available right now. His dad he's invested.
Invested in what? I never said that happened. I said that he could do whatever he said that was like when he was gonna like he was gonna invest like a couple of hundred or something in something.
He doesn't have the money he doesn't have it to get right away.
Can you explain that?
I just did. He invested it.
And why?
I don't know. You have to talk to Dad about it. You have to start calling his phone number.
Well, I tried to call him, but he didn't answer.
Oh, he might be sleeping.
So you're telling me there's no way to get? I think you're lying. Are you sure about that? Like, there's really no way to get it.
Believe me, Chloe, I'm not lying to you. I have no reason to lie to you.
Huh?
I have no reason to lie to you. We were trying to make a fusion
Want
for
to
you
keep the
and
money?
Hannah. So we were trying to make a fusion for you and Hannah. And some of it was invested, and when all this happened, he went ahead and invested all of it. I mean, he can get it, but it's not going to be.
Can you speak with Brian? Can they set up communications with each other? Can you please have Dad talk to him? Because Brian said that Dad promised to call him, and he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, Dad doesn't want to call anybody.
Okay.
Brian decides to throw these little words in. How we promised this, or how he promises that. Or I refuse
an animal or whatever. He doesn't tell us the truth about it.
Well, he said he didn't have the unicorn when you asked for it. Like his dad asked for it, but he has the unicorn now.
Sorry, but it's not worth $65,000 or whatever it was. And you're silly if you think, I'm telling you, Chloe, you're going to lose your family if you go this route. And if you're okay with that, then so be it.
No, I feel like when things settle down, everything will be okay again. But, I mean, when it's all heated right now.
Well, you are not thinking clearly, because giving him that money, you'll never see anything again. You'll never see any of it again.
Say such cruel things about him, like it's not. Please don't do that.
Chloe, he's moving on after this is over. I want you to realize that. He's moving on to his next victims. The next young children he can brainwash.
Children, really long.
Oh, were you 16 when you met?
Okay, guys.
You were a teenager, Chloe.
Huh?
Anyway.
Mom, you can't stay mad at him for this. You can't. I know you
I can't stay mad at him for destroying my family's life.
I did.
I can't.
I decided.
No, we both did that.
Really? Because all he ever did was try to fix our family. Like, remember? Like, he would make me.
So stop.
What do you mean?
Stop.
Okay, that is true. I just.
Your father and I have never needed fixing. So I don't even know what you mean by that.
Emotionally, we were very, what do you mean?
No, emotionally, you had your problems, and you never shared them with us. So, you know what, fine.
I think I could.
Well,
but then he taught me how to.
You found a 40-year-old man at the age of 16 to share your issues with. Good for you. And look where you're at.
Well, can you move the money?
I'll talk to Dad.
Can Dad?
You need to go to Angela about all this instead of talking to me on a recorded phone call.
It's okay. It's okay to be moved. Okay, all right.
This thing's looking your way, Chloe.
It would, Mom, it would be okay if you just told Dad to speak with him. Then it wouldn't be anybody.
I'm not telling your father anything. Your dad's rocking for a reason.
Mom, you can't just steal my money. Mom, that's what you're doing.
Is that what you think I'm doing?
No, I think that's what you're doing if you don't listen. Please don't do this. Don't make a war between us. Like, I'm asking you to do something with my money. Can you please just...
Chloe, the only person that made a war between us is you. I haven't touched your money, and nor do I want to touch that money.
Okay, Mom, then can you please have Dad unblock?
Again, I will talk to him, and I will talk to Angela. Or you can talk to Angela.
Well, all we need to do is just tell
And believe me, Chloe, I don't want a penny from you. You took everything away from me that ever mattered from you.
I'm glad that we're on.
So don't ever accuse me of stealing any money.
No.
See, you don't understand what we're going through. You really don't.
I know you're not trying to steal my money, but you're trying to rule over me like I'm a 5-year-old, and it's not okay. You give the money to him.
Somebody should have taken over somebody should have treated you like a 5-year-old 5 years ago, so you would have never been in this mess today.
Yeah, you should have, and I wouldn't have been in the situation, but you never cared to.
Look, are you kidding me? Is it my fault?
I know you're right.
Ms. Jarrett, you indicated that was on February 21st of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the next call was on what date?
February the 23rd of 2021.
Publishing States Exhibit 135.
Thank you. Please remain on the line.
Now, y'all know I don't want to interrupt, but we got to interrupt for fair use commentary purposes. I will say that it appears that a different picture of the relationship that exists between Chloe and her mom is forming, a more clear picture, I should say, not a different picture. I think both sides acknowledge that the relationship between Chloe and her family is complicated. And I think let me just leave it there. It's complicated. And I think that I think there's more to that relationship and how it played into the relationship that came to be between Chloe, Ben Yamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian. But I understand that for the purposes of the trial, obviously they can't go down every rabbit hole. However, I'm now starting to feel like this might be a rabbit hole I want to go down. Hey, Bogart, welcome in. I'm sorry it's raining and miserable where you're at. Listen to some jail calls with us.
Hold for acceptance. This is a prepaid call from
Chloe Driver.
an inmate at the Cherokee County Jail, Georgia, carried by Consolidated Telecom. Three-way or call waiting is not allowed and may automatically disconnect this call. This call is subject to monitoring and recording. If you are an attorney or designated legal counsel, contact inmatesales.com at 702-931-3938 to have your number set to do not record. Please select from the following options if you consent to this call being recorded, and to accept this call, dial 1 now. To reject this call, your call has been accepted.
Hello? Hey.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. What's up?
Hear me now?
Yes.
I saw Angie today. I didn't get my sister her. She came and saw me, so I'm on my free time. And yeah, I don't know. Did she tell you that I was gonna call?
She said you were going to try to call, but, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't know if I was going to hear from you or not.
Well, just for future reference, you can take number. You can push 1 to accept the call.
I know that now. I know that.
Okay. Yeah. So we first answer. Well, I talked to her, and I guess you'll be happy to know that I can't call him, so, and I'm not going to be talking to him. They called the number.
Only because you're being forced not to talk to him, right?
I mean, basically, yeah. What do you want me to stop?
So you still don't understand, do you?
Well, I'm not going to pursue it.
I mean, the things you said to me, the things that you said to me the other day when we talked was just, they were just hateful.
When I said,
And I can't.
when I was saying,
What?
You stole, when I'm saying, like, stealing money, like, when you had said the investment thing, that's what, because I didn't say, like, I didn't know anything about that. But now I understand what you were saying, and I actually appreciate it.
It's just a different account. It's not something that, well, it doesn't matter. It's not happening. I refuse.
Refuse what?
I'm either going to give it to charity or the government before I give it to him.
okay. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I can't pursue it anymore. You know, I'm not gonna, if I was free to do that, I was gonna pursue it, but I mean, like, they're kind of making it to where.
I do not want to talk about that. I do not want to talk about the money anymore. I am sensitive to this money. It's been nothing but a curse. I wish it was never in my account to manage. If I would have known this was going to happen, I would have never accepted the money. It's nothing but a headache. I don't want a penny of it. I never have, never will. And as far as the other thing that you said was pretty hateful, I mean, it's not my fault that you're going through this. And I was not attacking either to any of you.
I don't know where you're getting all this from, but we should, like, just stop talking.
Because you told me I should have been more strict. When I said I should have been more strict, you said yes. Then maybe this wouldn't have happened. But Chloe, I don't think you remember how you were as a teenager.
No,
You never listened to you never listened to me. Just like now, you still don't listen to me. I can tell you what's best for you, and you'll just argue with me because it's not what you want. And the fact of the matter is I've got 30 years on you. Okay, you're 20 years old, and you're inexperienced, and you just are going with the first thing that you go, the first person that you met with, or met. That happened to be twice your age, or more. Which means he's got plenty of life experience, way more than you will, or that you have. So, I also have way more life experience than you. And I really wish, just once in a while, you would actually take my advice. But if you choose you don't want to take my advice, that's fine. Then there's really no reason for you to call.
Okay, then can you move all the money back into my, okay, so if I don't talk
No.
to you and I understand how much supposed to get that I need from promises, how am I supposed to pay you if I don't talk to either of you?
Dad and I are going to start putting money on your account. It's going to be a lot less than what you're used to.
Oh, you're going to start trading?
You've got money on there right now. You've got probably, I think, about $200 on there. That will last you quite a while.
I have, and I moved half of it to my phone, so I only have 127 on it, and I moved, there's 50 of it, actually about 40 now, on my phone, and I can't move it back, so.
Okay, well, your father just put another 100 on it yesterday.
Okay.
So whatever's on your promissory, you can check it. You just need to spend it wisely. Okay?
And start doing it, like you're just going to start doing it weekly?
No, we're going to watch and see when you're going down, or you can give me a call, or you can give your father a call.
But it makes it sound like you don't want me to do that.
Well, Chloe, you need to manage this money. You can call us once a week if you need anything. You can call once a week if you need anything. If you want to talk and be civil, you can call twice a week. I don't care. But the point is you haven't been, since you've been starting to talk to him, you've changed right back to the old Chloe that was before any of this even happened. Stubborn, he knows everything, nobody else knows anything, type of person. And I don't want to deal with that Chloe. I want to deal with the Chloe that
Well, I would like to just...
you were before you started talking to him again.
Well, to me, that started talking, or that me before was doing a lot of drugs. So, I mean, he
What kind of drugs?
I was, what do you mean? Like,
I'm talking about a month ago when you weren't talking to him, you were civil. What are you talking about drugs? What do you mean?
I thought you meant from way back.
No, Chloe, oh my God. You're such a confused little girl. document
Yes,
that
Mom.
they're giving you? Well, maybe you need something stronger.
That's really fucked up for you to say that to me.
Don't talk to me that way, and you know it's not.
Mom, you're being really rude.
Really? Don't talk to me like that. No, I'm not. I'm speaking the truth.
No, you think you're speaking like that's still for you to say you're not qualified to say that. Are you a doctor? Do you want me to start with
What else do you need, Helen? What else?
You agreed, because of the funeral, you agreed to give $5,000, and I think that's fair. Because of the
Well, you know what though? I just found out the state of Georgia will reimburse him. And I agreed to that before I talked to Dad. Dad doesn't want to touch that money.
but
Other than giving you the money that you need. Because it's not your money, yeah, we have to deal with it.
no, I heard what she told me today. She was making it sound like she was scaring you into not touching it.
Sharon, who?
You
Who are you talking about?
tell Angela to not touch that money.
No, she didn't scare me into not touching it.
Huh?
No, she didn't scare me into not touching it.
Okay, well, I mean, she told me that she told you that.
Okay.
And it sounds like you're listening to her by saying that you're trying not to touch the money. You're trying not to have anything to do with it.
Well, I already told you, I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you can wrap up this conversation, so you know for a fact, Mom, that he's going to be reimbursed for that, because if he's not, I was like,
That according to, yes, I heard that from Angela. That there's a victim advocate or something to do with funeral. I mean, it's been a while since she told me, so I can't really remember what she said word for word, but.
okay, then I'll talk with her, and if I get confirmation that's the case, that could be the last that we talk about the money, because I don't want to talk about
Okay,
it.
that's all I want to hear about. That's what I want to hear.
But
You're not going to go without.
okay,
You might not go without, okay?
all right, if that confirmation doesn't come, though, I want to have that five. That's only if she doesn't know for sure she's going to get that. But, so,
Well, I'm sure there's a process he has to go through. It just doesn't get mailed to him. I mean, he's going to probably have to show how much it costs or whatever. And I'm sure there's I'm sure there's a limit or whatever. But I don't know. I have no idea. I've never went through all that. I don't know.
well, that's the only thing I'm going to be talking about, it's like, if somehow he
It's
doesn't
so bad. I just don't want to talk about it because I don't care about it.
okay, well, it's just one little thing, like, it's just that one thing. If, then, that,
Chloe, I really feel like you're being very disrespectful with your tone and your words and you swearing. I really do. You put this family through a lot, and somehow you're being bitchy to me.
because of what happened yesterday, like, I think it's what?
What happened yesterday?
When,
I didn't talk to you yesterday. You called me 3 times and I didn't answer.
okay, sorry, the day before, I'm a little funky here.
Mm-hmm. When you were very rude.
When you were telling me what you were going to do with my money, I felt like that was rude, and I told
Enough, Chloe.
It's like,
You're going to be taken care of, whether it comes out of your money or whether it comes out of that loan or whether it comes out of my money. Okay? You'll be taken care of. But stop making it sound like it's your money to where you're controlling me.
I know.
This is not happening that way.
And that. I just want to know where my money's at and what's happening with my money.
Your money is in different accounts.
Okay.
That's all I know. Dad put it away. I don't talk to him about it. He doesn't talk to me about it. The only time this ever comes up is when you are on the phone. Like I said, we're going to lower your budget and we'll take care of it. Just got to be very, very careful on how you spend, because I'm not going to be putting $200 and $500 down on your account like you were asking. I'm not doing that.
Okay, well, you thought to do that just a week ago, you thought that was a great idea to do.
I told you.
This call will be terminated in 2 minutes.
Chloe,
What?
I told you they charge 10%. You're the one that said put more. Dad doesn't want to, and we're not going to.
Fine, I'm just saying. So when I need books,
Then you give me a call. We'll see how much they are, and we'll go from there.
you can go on like cheap, there's something called.
I know.
Like,
I know. We will. But you really need to be managing your commissary money.
well,
You
it's something
know.
you're doing that for me.
Fine.
At the next point, you're the one in control of it. It sounds like you're going to be doing that for me.
How come I wouldn't order your food?
Well, I skipped it a couple of times.
This call will be terminated in 1 minute.
I get that, Chloe. I get that. I'm just saying, please start watching and paying attention. And you've done good so far, except for phone calls. I think you're spending way too much money on phone calls. But that's about to be over.
Well, one, yeah, it's about to be over. Two, it's because I called during the weekend, and weekends are more expensive on patrol. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Well, just call me every week, okay?
So, yeah, I will. Well, now that I know that, and this is probably going to hang up, so I'll call back and, I'll call back again. Because,
Okay.
so I'm almost done with my Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
My monkey read. She really likes it too. Since I'm almost about to be done with that, I'm thinking about.
This call was terminated because it exceeded.
Okay, so I am listening to these calls, but I'm also watching what's going on in the chat. And there's a really interesting conversation going on, right? About this apology that Chloe reported that she said to Hannah. What's interesting to me is that I agree with you guys in the chat that are saying that shows that she could appreciate the wrongfulness of her action that she was about to commit before she committed it. Like, she didn't apologize after, she apologized before. And I will agree with that, where Horror Host says, because of all of the circumstances, including her paranoia and delusions, it is possible that Chloe was apologizing for something else entirely, which is also possible. However, when it comes to the jury is more than likely going to see it the way that Carol saw it, which is she was apologizing for what she was about to do. Because we obviously are not on the jury, so we're allowed to think about and consider other things that we've heard out that have not been presented in this courtroom. And then What's Your Sign wanted to know, what are they attempting to rebut in this with these phone calls? And to me, what it seems like they're attempting to rebut is this idea that Chloe was subjugated, passive, able to be controlled by Benjamin, Ben Michael, Z, Brian, because clearly she is rising up to her mom. And they're also showing that it that Chloe, the only reason that she stopped communicating with Homeboy is because she was not allowed to communicate. She was banned from communicating with him. And I have to say, you guys, I'm not, the fact that he was willing to take her calls beyond maybe one or two, right? To have that like closure, that confrontation. Why did you do this? What the F were you, that if a couple of those, like if two calls, maybe even three at most, right? But then to continue to accept the calls to the point where the jail had to intervene and stop the calls because he wasn't going to stop them. He was taking them. There's just something is very off here, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So I'm just going to keep playing.
I don't have any further questions. I don't have any questions for this witness. Thank you.
All right, you can step down. Thank you. Any other evidence from the state?
That's it.
All right. Members of the jury, then that concludes the presentation of evidence in this case. We have some matters that we are going to need to discuss before, outside your presence, before we move on to the next phase of the trial, which will be the attorney's closing arguments. I know you ordered lunch. It probably isn't here yet. I am going to let you be in recess until 1 o'clock. If the lunch isn't here yet, certainly feel free to stay.
Okay. So, it's over. That's it. That's all. And they're going to go on lunch, and then I'm not sure because I've moved the thing all the way to the forward most position, and it doesn't appear anyway that they're going to stream the what are they called? Well, it's the jury instructions, but it's called charging conference. I don't think they're going to stream that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get off for now. And I will be back tonight to recap. And if it because as soon as the opening state or the closing statements are over, it goes to the jury. They're about to do closing arguments at 2:00 Eastern. So I think what I'm going to do is just get off, and I got stuff to do around the house. And then so after they're done with the closing arguments, let's say they last like 2 hours. That's like 4, maybe even 5 before the jury gets it to then start deliberation. And I don't know how this judge is going to decide. Is she going to send them home for the day, right, and have them come back tomorrow to deliberate? Or Are they going to deliberate for like an hour or so? And if they've not reached a verdict, then go home? Or are they, like, we're just going to have to play it by ear. But I will, we'll play it. We'll play it by ear. If there's, if there's a reason for me to come live, if we get a verdict, I will stream it. So there you go. But anyway, we'll just see what happens. But regardless, I will be live tonight. We're going to continue with Jason and then go into the investigation itself, like her interviews at the hospital and just, the Google searches, all of those things. Will, yeah, absolutely, Marley Mom. Go ahead and mention it. I'm not one of those people. I don't care if you mention other creators in the chat. It's no big deal to me. Unless you're talking negatively about them, then I don't really like that, because rather than if the creator that you're speaking negatively about sees it, they're not going to say anything to you. They're going to say it to me and about me. And usually they'll go live about it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't need none of that drama in my life. But anyway, I want to thank you guys all so very much for being here. If you have not done so already, would you please?
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
Yeah. Give your girl a thumbs up on that like button, and I will bid you all a fond farewell and adieu. Okay, lady, thanks, love you, bye. And talk to y'all tonight. Unless, whatever. Oh, I like Trial TV Live. I watch them. Yeah, yes, I'm glad you're promoting that channel. Go check out Trial TV Live. They do a fantastic job. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Nadine, my boo, for having my back. No, I know you wouldn't. I just like to put it out in the universe about what will and will not be tolerated in Jen Lou's chat, because you know how it would be on these streets. All right, you guys. So I'll see you guys tonight, maybe sooner, depending on how it goes with the getting it to the jury, all the things. And you guys have a great rest of your afternoon, and I'll talk to y'all later. All right, bye.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do. Well, fuck you.
No malicious intent or effort was towards it.
No malicious. Finish her.
Minutes later.
We all do a little mad sometimes.